Good evening, one and all. It is yet another CFN Live here on Monday, and we're almost in April. I know I shouldn't probably say that, but for those who got snow overnight, I'm sure you're looking forward to some true spring. I know Bill was talking to us or mentioning in the Legacy group how much snow they got up in the Timmins area. I know folks just to our north got quite a bit, and there's a bit of a warming trend I hear coming to the west. So getting all kinds of extremes in weather, but needless to say, it is just around the corner. It's just winter trying to hang on with its last breath. Let's say hello first to, you know what? This is going to be, if you watch the Bassmaster and have opinions to share, this will be the show. This is your show. And I'll get to that in a sec. But Steve, thanks for that. That's a great segue. Rob, how you doing, buddy? Tell us, what is the weather like out in Saskatchewan right now? Because I do believe you're starting to experience a bit of a warming trend. Mark, I know you got some snow last night, so I'm not sure how you're dealing with that, but dude, it won't be long before it's gone. Just keep the faith. We are having some internet troubles. I will mention that as well. I'm just going to take my phone, so we are offline when it comes to robbing bandwidth. But if it does go in a little circle, my apologies. It is what it is. But I don't know if people realize, maybe I'll take this opportunity now. Rogers had a damage last weekend, and I don't know if it, or last week, don't know if it's completely repaired, but ever since Wednesday night, I've really been starting to see a trickling of support, cellular service, bandwidth, whatever. So as I said, it's just warning me right now that we're low. So if we do have to switch this over to hotspot, my apologies. I'm just going to say that now. Tony, you wanted it. You asked for it. Here it comes. Happy birthday to you. I can't sing worth crap, but it's your 19th birthday, and let's all celebrate because Tony is back. Hope you had a great day, buddy. Hope you have a great night. But there you go. That's all I can do. That's the best I can do. And the voice isn't all that great. So it is what it is. Steve, how you doing, my friend? Nice to see you. Eve, thanks for all. And hey, folks, thanks for all your sharing when it comes to Cancast. We're going to be talking to Kyle and Moose about Cancast at the end of the show. So I will say at that point, I'm sure Kyle will step up and thank everybody for all the sharing you've done. It means the world. When you work as hard as Kyle has and his team has done to put that show together, it's awesome to get that kind of support from the community. And I know Kyle will talk about that just because I know Kyle. Shane, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. All I hear, Cooch is still good for ice. Yeah, it is. Funny, even getting a lot of videos from Simcoe of all places, but yeah, let's be careful, Shane. So, absolutely get out there and fish, but just be safe for everybody who's getting out on the hard water right now. Let's be safe. Bob, how you doing, my friend? I'm sure you watched the Bassmaster Classic this weekend. Again, I'd love to hear your input on some of what we're going to be talking about. James, nice. It's an honor to have you. Get out and vote on. Yeah, absolutely. Howard, Scottie. It's all good, James. We're good, buddy. Mitch is in the house. Dude, some beautiful photography. You're hitting it out of the park with your photography. Jay Powers has been busy in the room. I think we might have an edit or 6 coming up tomorrow. Love your content, bud. Just love your energy. Just keep up the great work, dude. There's Rob right now at home here. It's plus 14. Yeah. So you've got, that's what I heard. You guys were having a bit of a warming trend as well. Cool stuff. Corey, how you doing, my friend, all the way out on the West Coast? It's probably 3:30 in the afternoon for you, dude. Absolutely, buddy. Not blowing kisses. Yeah. And dude, I'm not here to receive any, so you can blow all you want, but, I'm just turning the cheek. Brad, nice to see you as well. Thanks for all your content. Really appreciate that. We got Greg guys, this is awesome. I hope folks are here to maybe listen, talk about, and just offer some comments about the classic that happened this weekend. Because, there's a lot that went on there. And I have to say, hey, absolutely, buddy. This is what CFN is all about. And I want to thank our community for helping the Waterfalls Warrior Summit that's going to be happening. Is it June? Is it June it's going on, Charles? But CFN has stepped up and supported Charles and this incredible initiative that it just brings folks that need some time on the water, that time on the water for healing, just getting together with, other vets. You do some great work, Charles, and we're always happy to support you, bud. So keep up the great work. Walter's in the house. How you doing, buddy? Again, to Walter and Steve, I can't thank those two enough for all of the edits that they do to help bolster and build our community. If you are interested in getting one of your photos featured on our page, please go over to our Facebook page, click the message button, and then you can submit a photo, you can submit a video, anything your little heart desires. But we love seeing we love seeing kids catching fish. We love unique journeys, experiences, big fish, little fish, it doesn't matter. And I think the thing that I truly am proud of is how positive our community is. There's, not to get into the other pages, but there's lots of places you can go if you want negativity. This isn't the place. And I appreciate everybody that remains positive and respectful of others. It's something that I don't have to remind our community of very often, but you guys are as much the driving force as I am to make this a positive experience and a positive place for anglers to come and support other anglers. And I love you all for it. When you put a comment on a post or a pic or a photo edit that's been done, it means the world. I love seeing the positivity, because let's face it, this world is in some places anything but. But we're working on it. 4/11, is it, in Oregon? Well, we appreciate the dedication that you have, Corey. Really, really do. There we go. May 23rd to 25th. Charles, as I said, buddy, solid effort. Really, I wish I could make it, to be honest with you, but it's going to be a busy time. Scott McKenzie's in the house. Mike Howard's here. Jim Fowler. Okay, let's get right to it. The end of the day, it is our 10th anniversary. Real quick, I want to go through some of the things that I want to highlight. Obviously, as mentioned, we are celebrating it all year long. Richard Dunlop has done a Herculean job spreading all of our swag, pumping our tires, and getting this incredible billboard on the back of all of you CFNers. And he continues to do so. So a big shout out to Richard. If you are interested in a hoodie or a Flex Fit hat, they will not be available at Cancast or any of our shows, unfortunately, because you have to go through Richard to get them. So that is unique. Also, we had Dan Coates on here last week to unveil the brand new CFN jersey. So proud of this. And I will say, Dan was really taken back. We didn't get to share this because it was after we had gone live. But when Dan found out what the proceeds of the sales of these jerseys are going towards, he was in with both feet. He jumped in with both feet. And of course, the Derby on Wheels initiative that I have mentioned is something that we do at our Made in Canada tackle shows. We have silent auctions, and we are raising money for the purpose of putting together a trailer that we could take on the road to any kind of kids event, kids derby, fishing derby, anything that is related to fishing, to help provide a means. What does that mean? Well, if you're having a fishing event, you obviously need rods. We're going to have 200 pre-strung rods inside that trailer. We're going to have a fridge that's going to be able to hold drinks as well as worms for the kids and anybody else who's enjoying the derby. We will also have a PA system so you can broadcast to the masses. And if Elon Musk doesn't shut off Starlink to Canada, we'll be able to provide you Starlink to broadcast to the world. We are also going to have a cooktop that has been donated by the good friends at Enbridge, where I work. So we'll be able to cook for you as well. There's a whole bunch of things there's a big effort going into this. And this is going to really be something that I'm proud to say that CFN has spearheaded, and a lot of folks have jumped in. So as I said, any purchase of these jerseys, all, and I mean all of the proceeds are going to this. So if you're on board, we'd love to have you. And if you don't know how to order them, please reach out to either me or Walter, and we will point you in the right direction. Of course, it is 7th annual CFN retreat at Horwood Lake Lodge, August 10th to the 16th. Love to see you folks there. Please reach out to Doris or Warren and get your butt booked in a bed. And I am excited to say it is 70% booked already. So there's not a lot of room, still some room, not a lot of room, but we'd love to see you there. It is, of course, Monster Monday, and it is not a typical Monster Monday without it being without having a Macintosh Minute. I don't have it queued up, so I apologize, but we are going to be posting some videos throughout the week that will give you a good idea of what Macintosh is all about and what it means to our OFC Nation community. It is our 4th annual, and we're really happy and proud to say that we are again heading up to Camp Macintosh in September from the 24th to the 28th. As you can see, if you've been there before, we've extended a day or two just to give folks a little bit more of the experience. Of course, the costs had to be adjusted as well, but if you are interested, we would love to see you there. Reach out to Andre and Tracy and get your butt booked in a bed. We are also going to be talking to Moose and Kyle at the end of Lawrence's segment about Cancast. But in the meantime, of course, the Made in Canada Tackle Show that is going on in Kitchener, April 12th at Bingham Park. It's sold out. From a vendor perspective, we have no more vendor spots left. So to you vendors that are coming, thank you. Thank you for making this what Brad and I want it to become. And it is all, and again, it's a cliche now, but it's something that Brad and I started 2 years ago. Let's support Canadian made. You know, the Canadian fishing industry is truly remarkable. And I'll tell you, there's some incredible product being sold, made, and provided to Canadians. And with all these tariffs going on, just like during COVID, there's a good chance that these tackle companies are going to get us through this next hurdle. So I'm really excited about that. Having said that, let us go back, before we bring Jim in here, let us go back and see how the final weigh-in looked. Have a look, just in case you didn't see it. And of course, I want to thank Bassmaster for making all of these videos available to us. So if you get a chance, go over there, give them a like, give them a follow, because the amount of content they produced this past weekend was incredible. But here's what it looked like at the final weigh-in, at the final angler.
Animal, a young 22-year-old angler, and what he's overcome and accomplished is truly amazing. Oh boy, looks like a good day at the office. Let's get Trey McKinney and Easton Fothergill side by side. A 22-year-old and a 20-year-old shooting it out for the most coveted title in professional bass fishing. Started the day with 54 pounds and 5 ounces. Needs 14.3. 22 pounds, 10 ounces. 22.10. It was 76 pounds, 15 ounces. The excellence of Easton Fothergill, and he is your Bassmaster Classic champion. $76 pounds, 15 ounces. And in his second Bassmaster Classic, Easton Fothergill is breaking records. But before we talk about that, let's look at this. Maybe a new Mercury Big Bass. It is 8 pounds and an ounce. You are an absolute anomaly. You had emergency brain surgery just a few weeks before a college bass championship. You went on, you had to get a medical absence so that you could actually be able to compete in that. Well, you competed in that, you won that. You became the college bass champion. You went on, you won 2 opens the next year qualifying for the Elite Series. And now you just weighed in the 15 biggest bass in Bassmaster Classic history, beating Kevin Van Dam's record of 69 pounds, 11 ounces. How does that feel?
It's been
Well, I tell you, Jim, you know a thing or two about those kind of moments. You've been a part of them. You have done them yourself. Tell us what was going through the head of young Easton.
I got to finish this jig. The mortgage is due. It took me by surprise.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
How is everybody?
Living the dream, buddy. Living the dream, as they say.
Well, obviously, I never went on a stage that big, but I did get my share in Canada here, being the top dog twice. But no, you could see him. He was just shell shocked, and he's young too. So I think that adds to it when you accomplish something that soon in life.
It's interesting that you say that because, at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of people maybe knew Easton before this tournament, but after this tournament, my good Lord, he is going to be a household name. And we're going to get to all that because, of course, there has been lots of discussion during, leading up to, during, and of course, now that it's done. And Jim, I definitely want to get your take on it because I think there's something that is being missed by all this that I'd really love to have you weigh in. Our buddy Randy Blocka, who has intuitive angling, has been very vocal from a negative standpoint of things. So we're going to use some of his to sort of counteract some of the positivity, but we'd love for you folks to weigh in. So if you have a comment, you have a suggestion, you have something that you'd just like to offer or get off your chest, obviously in good taste, because we're not here to slam anybody. But at the end of the day, I really want to hammer home something that might be being missed, but we should expose and bring to light. After day 2, and Jim, I have to be honest with you. I have never watched a Bassmaster Classic from start to finish, ever.
It's funny you should say that because this is the first year that I haven't sat and watched it. I just with everything I had this weekend, I just didn't have time for that.
And it's not like I made time, but it was, playing in the background. And every once in a while you'd hear the, Zona, who I think did a fantastic job emceeing and doing the play-by-play. He got you engaged as being a part of the audience, as a viewer. But we talked about it just before we went live. The amount of content, and really at the end of the day, this event almost didn't happen. In fact, they may have teetered on perhaps taking a day away because of the weather that they were being dealt. But they had drone shots, they had hot air balloons. The venue was second to none in terms of what it offered us as viewers watching it. And, based on something that I'll share during this segment, is it was watched. It really was something that people tuned into. After day 2, I think all of us were really proud of Corey's accomplishment. This angler better than all of us, but he admitted not having a lot of time on the water. But I'll tell you, did he ever get it dialed in a hurry? Jim's he's texting.
Oh, I thought you were.
No,
I was waiting for a movie to come up.
No. But as I said, Corey, he was a solid stick, and really, set a pace in terms of being right there with all of the favorites, if you will. And not to say that Corey wasn't a favorite, but not being from that area, not being a U.S. angler, there were certain folks like Lee Livesey that had a bit of an edge on someone like him. Cox was another one. Hackney was another one that was mentioned that a lot of folks
did terrible.
Yeah, and again, we're going to get into that, and I felt bad for Greg because he was kind of put on the hot seat a bit in regards to his performance, and I felt bad for
he's had his share. He's had his share of trophies.
This is it exactly, right? So after day 2, Corey basically issues this challenge, if you will, and in true Canadian fashion. And you could tell Corey's played a game of hockey or two. I really enjoyed this. I have to say, I really enjoyed it.
So, long story short is I'm excited tomorrow, and Father Gill better catch him.
So, for those who don't know, after day one, Trey McKinney was ahead and really made day one fishing look easy. And
yeah, but they were only a pound apart, eh?
And that was the thing. Him and Fothergill after day one, you're 100% right.
No, Corey.
Oh, sorry, Corey. Yes, they were, because Corey was very close to, on that one fish, was almost in the lead. And I really thought, based on the bass tracker, that he may have actually. And this is, I think, why I was so engaged, because I'm thinking, I think he's got a bag that might put him in first place.
Well, they've been known to sandbag a bit.
I think they talked about that, and it was interesting to hear some of those who are the frequent flyers when it comes to that. But needless to say, after day one, it was great seeing Corey there, and any Canadian. It's great to see it as a
You know what? The other thing too, Scottie, it's great seeing them all there, because the sport that I make my living out of, and all you guys love being part of and everything. It's just really cool to see everybody that they have a venue like this, to compete in. And like I see nothing wrong with what he said there about he better catch them. Yeah. Funny thing happened to me when I won my first championship. The first year I fished competitively, and I won the Canadian Championship. And one of the guys that had fished forever came to me and said to me, because it was held on the Big Reno, he came and he says, "So I guess you fished here what? 100, 200 times?" And I looked at him and said, "Oh, like that, eh?" And the guy that I had with me practicing that day with me, he was just a buddy of mine. He came out in the boat for a while, and he looks at him and he says to me when we went away from him, he says, "I thought you told me you'd never been here." And I said, "I haven't." If they want to paranoid themselves into thinking I'm going to win, let them do it. I'd fished there 2 days of my life before it.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. Well, you can get on things.
Well, the thing that they said throughout the tournament, and of course you would know just as well as anybody who fishes bass, they grow them big in Texas. Oh. And they said that the numbers aren't necessarily there, but if you catch one, there is a good chance that you're going to pull a double digit out. I don't believe anybody did, but they were certainly predicting that someone would. But what we did see were some incredible specimens. Sevens.
I think the fishing was off.
Well, and it was, and I think that was the other thing that I don't feel folks put enough emphasis on. That would have been, and I'm not a bass angler, that would have been an incredible scenario to have to compete in. Had those
this week or next week. That place is going to light up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah,
because they're coming to spawn. I mean, some guys caught some fish off that were spawning, because there was a couple of times there. If you noticed that one thing we talked about, one of the clips I watched, the Corey Johnson, and Zona made mention of it, and it was what Rocky always used to say to me all the time: "Look at what you're doing." But I was the eyes in the pair, and Corey Johnson is the same way. He's fishing, but his head's on a swivel. He's going like this. He's looking the whole time he's fishing. I
noticed that. I noticed that.
And it's what you have to do. And I always talked about being aware of your surroundings. And it was me. I did it. It's I talk about sitting in the backyard in a chair at night. The number of times I'm sitting there and there'd be, 2 pieces of grass sticking out of the water there. One's up and one's folded over, and all of a sudden they go like this. And I go, I pick it up, I throw over a jig or something, and I catch one, Yeah. And it's little things like that, just paying attention and seeing everything. And Lee Livesey is known for that too.
And I'll tell you, what a performance that boy put on as the local hero. And a lot of folks in the end were really hoping that he was going to pull it off. I didn't really have, outside of Corey and Chris, especially when it came to Championship Sunday, those were the only real 2 horses that we really had.
I actually picked him to win amongst a few guys.
Yes, and Zona had him up there as well.
Everybody was after day 2, and he wasn't winning after day 2.
Yeah,
he back a bit, but I thought he'd come with the load the last day, or 100%. I thought Corey might, because Corey he saw fish on the second day. Yeah. I'm positive he saw fish, and he thought he was going back to catch them, and he didn't.
Some of the notables, and Alicia, thanks for this comment. Chris finished really well because really after day one, you barely saw Chris on the
He
leaderboard.
only caught 4 fish. Huh?
And another one, my notable, my brother from another mother down south, Scott Martin, struggled. Like, I mean, it was painful to watch. He really struggled on day one. I don't think he had more than 2 or 3 fish. But he was another one that I thought wouldn't make the final cut. And to see him up there for Championship Sunday truly was an accomplishment, not only for Scott Martin, but also Chris Johnson. Because really, like, Chris was down there and maybe he just nobody had really seen what he had in his live at the time. I don't really know, but all of a sudden those two especially came out of freaking nowhere. And we're all of a sudden, in the top 15 of the leaderboard, top 25 of the leaderboard. And I'll tell you, what an accomplishment for the two of them to make it to the final day just in that. So thanks, Alicia. Chris, you fished down that area, so you know what wind does to those lakes. And of course, with all that timber lying around, it didn't make it easy. But I have to say, when you're a stick like Chris, when you're a stick like Corey, Easton and all these guys that were down there putting on a heck of a show, you guys make it look so freaking easy. Jim, I've had the pleasure of being in the boat with you guys. Make it look so easy. And I know it's not. I know there's a lot of work and effort that goes into it.
Yeah, but some days it is, Scottie. Some days it is. It's there's days when shit just happens, like, when you don't expect it to happen and it does.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw Bill put up there, and he mentioned about the wind. It's so funny to hear the guys saying, like they were all talking about the high wind, and then on the second day when it was glass calm, they're saying, "Oh, they need a bit more wind."
Yeah. Now I really appreciate this comment. Fishing in that timber with forward facing, it looked fun, and I have to say, it wasn't like a typical forward facing sonar type tournament where you were fixated on your screen. They had to look up. I mean, or you'd run into timber. Like you had to look up. So
well, they see the wood on it, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So on that note, of course, there is the downside, and there were some concerns in regards to numbers, and of course, the forward-facing sonar issue veered its ugly head. So we'll talk about those, but I have to say, when it comes to numbers being down, 41,000 folks viewed the final weigh-in. So I guess my question, Jim, to you is Bassmaster putting on that good of a show that people like me don't have to go down to Texas, or even if they live in Texas, they don't have to travel too far from their couch to watch it? Well, there were so many aspects that they were showing.
Yeah. That could be true, Scottie. That's a really good point, because a lot of people, they just why go when you're going to the thing? You can watch the weigh-in, you watch the show. They got 10,000 cameras, like you said. They got drones, hot air balloons taking pictures. I was watching some stuff today when I was supposed to be working out here. Tammy can't hear me, and I was what was I doing? Oh, I was putting together my Shimano with.
Hey! I said you weren't supposed to rub it in, Jim. Damn it.
No. And I was watching, I think I mentioned this to you earlier today, about watching the kid fishing along a row of trees, and the view, and you're looking down, there's 100 boats watching him, or not 100, but a lot, and they're in him in a big semicircle, and he's fishing along a row of trees. And from the drone shot, you see the edge, you see the grass, you see the row of trees that used to grow along the edge of the creek, or the drop off, or whatever. You can't really tell. I don't know what it is. I've never been there, but it was just so cool. So you can't see that by going to watch it. And then there was another thing that I thought, because one of the first things I noticed was how many empty seats there was.
So this was the next thing that I wanted to bring up, because of course they showed a picture from the last time that it was there, and it was a sellout. So what changed? What was different? And
I'm wondering, they talked about the expo just being lights out, and it was free. You could go spend your money. You could talk to Kevin Van Dam. You could have a hot dog with Shaw Grigsby. They were all there. They were there for the taking. There was stuff to buy. The companies were there with stuff to look at and everything else. I'm wondering if it was too far away from where the weigh-in was. As I understand, it was quite a distance. I didn't get the exact distance. And then the other thing too that we got sorted out this afternoon, somebody came up with the fact that it was $35 to get into the weigh-in, but it wasn't $35 to get into the weigh-in. Yeah,
it was $35 to
$30
park at the stadium.
Yeah,
so again,
to park. Yeah.
And again, this might have something to do with it. Did they charge parking the last time, like 4 years ago or 5 years ago? Was it? I don't know.
That's not Bassmaster.
No, of course. That's the Dickies Arena.
Yeah, that's like when people used to come to me at the sportsman show and say, "How come? Oh, I have to pay for parking." You know, I said, "Well, that's not to show people. That's not the Canadian National Sportsman shows. It's not Andy Pilata. It's not the like Kyle from at Cancast. It's not. They arrange these things, and if they can't arrange it, they can't arrange it.
Yeah.
Ottawa gets a Mark from Orleans Boat World sponsors the parking, as I understand.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It's part of the deal, and it makes a big difference. But I mean, I still can't see that. It looked like it was just not as many people in this. Like, so I was shocked. Like, I was expanding the picture, looking at it, and I thought, wow, usually these places are just absolutely wild. Because I remember the pictures from when Gussie won, there wasn't a seat in the bloody place, and that was a big place too.
It was. Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe just the time of year. Who knows? Is the interest changing? Like you said, you can sit at home and you can watch it, and not just the fishing, but the weigh-in.
Yeah.
I mean, watching the weigh-in at home. If you want, I'm getting older now. And going to a stadium's a pain in the butt and everything, as you know. But it's just. I don't know if you can sit at home and watch it instead of going there but still, there's still that thing about being there and watching it because it's incredible when you watch it.
100%.
Yeah,
so we'll look at and you're 100% right. I love all of this, Jim. As I said, I'm like a sponge. I'm soaking it all in because this is exactly what I was hoping.
I'm getting excited talking about it.
I was excited all weekend, and as I said, I will admit I've never watched a classic start to finish. This was the first one, and I have to say, I do not see what Randy sees. I see something completely different, and we'll get to that at the end of it. But let's get Randy's take, because again, there is always two sides to a story, and he has a strong opinion, whether you agree with it or not. He has a strong opinion, and I'd just like to share it to see what you, as well as those who are watching, feel.
Back when the Bassmaster Classic was at the top of its, period, from about 1975 to about, early 2000, something like that, I could literally go down any Bassmaster Classic list, and most of them, like I said, we had 35 to 40 some people in the tournament. But you could show me a list of Bassmaster Classic qualifiers. I knew every single one of them. It's like you didn't even have to show me their name. I knew who they were by looking at their face.
Would that play into it? Like, being someone who's been around for a while, would that play into
it? That's maybe that's a bad thing for the sport, that there's no change. It's just a good old boys club, the same guys competing every year winning, and you change things up a little bit now. Electronics got a lot better. Like Randy, him and forward facing sonar are like Tesla cars and salt water. You know what I mean? Like, he wants nothing to do with it. He thinks it's terrible. And, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it. Like you said, there has to be both sides to it. But, I've even said a couple of times that I notice I don't recognize some of the names. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with, with things changing. There being names that you don't recognize. I mean, there's names out there, before Kevin Van Dam fished, nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
The first few tournaments that he had, who's this skinny kid from Michigan with legs like my arms, in shorts and nice white running shoes, and he started a whole. It all changed, and now there's more young kids coming, and they get good really, really fast now. They get good, and a lot of it's because of electronics.
Yep. Again, it's as Randy will go on as we'll listen. A lot of that circles back to the electronics. Steve, you bring up something that Jim and I talked about at the outset before we went live. That was the only, if I could offer any criticism, and very constructive, that is something. And again, Jim and I talked about it because we're not sure how far they took the boats out and the way and where the Dickies Arena was in terms of distance. Maybe it took an hour to travel, 40 minutes. I'm not sure, but the weigh-in did take an awful long time. So I do have to agree. If they could shorten that up, it might be a little bit more exciting.
I'm sure that they started the weigh-in when they did for TV.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of it was live and stuff like that. They had stuff, so they had to let people get home from work.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I couldn't believe the weigh-in wasn't starting. I'm looking at it. Geez, did something happen? You know, like did the power go out in the building? I really had, without a word of a lie, I thought that there had to be something wrong.
100%.
And I was thinking about the Tex Mercer, and I thought, well, he's so busy, he's not going to answer me anyway, you know. But yeah, I didn't realize that it started that late. And you know, the bit about it taking a long time, I understand that a bit, because you know everybody has to have their say. Everybody has to, you know, show their back with their sponsor's name on it a few times and that type of thing. That's what it's all about, eh?
True.
And you know, the bottom line, like we talked earlier too, you know, just like when Randy's going to go on here and talk about, you know, forward-facing sonar, you said, that brings me back to what I mentioned to you several times in the last few months here.
Yeah.
Down to have to sell stuff.
And you're 100% right, because at the end of the day, they advertise a full gamut of product and merchandise, a full gamut. And I will say, even though I didn't attend the expo, I felt as if I did with the amount of ads that they were playing, and really they were doing a fantastic job showing props to those who put a lot of money into the event. And I will have to say, those who did got their money's worth based on just the production value that I saw. But the Garmins of the world, you know, let's face it, people are buying Garmins. You talk to any tackle shop or anybody else for that matter, Garmins and live scopes, whether it's Lowrance or Garmin or the new Mega Live 2,
it's all selling. Yeah,
they're buying. How many boats are being bought right now? So we almost have to kind of support everybody, but also pay attention to what is hot, what is, you know, the desire of anglers. And right now, Garmin, Humminbird, Lowrance, those three companies right now are leading the pack in terms of sales. I'd like to think anyway. So George, I loved your comment here too. And I think this plays into it. And Jim and I talked about Randy, and he can be a little bit over the top if you're someone like me who likes to stay neutral. But yeah, some of the bad press, you know, maybe there was bad blood between pros. I can't speak to that. Disqualifications, forward-facing sonar. There's a whole host of things that are unfortunately casting a bit of a dark cloud on the industry, not the classic, but on the industry. And I think this is where we can offer at the end of this segment a bit of a new light. And I can't wait.
Most of those qualifications have been by the anglers themselves and for stupid things.
Yep.
You know, things where they just didn't pay attention.
I have to say, I never got a chance to reach out to Scott, but I love the fact that he went to explain exactly how he got disqualified, and he owned it. Like, this day and age, with all of the stuff that we've seen in the angling community and the cheating and this, we haven't really seen anybody step up and own it. And I got a tip of the hat to Scott for doing so. Not only did he explain it, but he owned it. So good for him on that.
Did you see Roland Martin standing in the stands when Scott was on the stage and he acknowledged them and whatever, and Roland was standing there with tears running down his face?
Yeah,
that's a big deal, you know. That's a really big deal.
Another one that did that to me, I have to admit, I did get a little teary. Hunter Shryock. If I pronounced your name wrong, Hunter. There was a bass that he caught on day 2, and he struggled because he didn't catch one until after noon. Like it was 12:30, I think, his first fish. But he caught that big fish, and he immediately started to think about his dad and the fact that he had caught a fish on this same body of water, and the last time he caught something like that was with his dad, and he broke down in front of it. It was awesome. I love that. So big shout out to Hunter, man. You're a real guy to be able to.
I met him years ago down here when he had just started, and I met him at the Thousand Island Bait Shop with a guy. Geez, I can't even remember his name now. Oh God, what's his name? He works for Berkeley in the States now. He's a regional rep. I can't even remember his name now. I feel terrible, but I knew him for a while there, and it was really cool because Hunter Shyrock was in the parking lot.
Shyrock, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I said to Tammy, I said, "Look at that guy! Look at that kid! Look at the cool sneakers he's got on."
Yeah.
And they were like bright pink and orange, and I'd never seen anything like that. I said, I got to get me a pair of those, They were really cool looking. And I got introduced to him, and I got a quick hi and whatever. And here it is now, like 30 years later, and he's out there. And I don't have red sneakers, or I don't have pink sneakers, but I do have red ones.
Wow. I'm telling you, if it isn't the flow we're dealing with, it's all
the flow's gone.
It's the merch, and now you got new skids. Now you got new. I tell you, you are something else. So to get on with, of course, what we are talking about tonight, Randy then, of course, has to offer his opinion yet again about live school.
Yesterday, people were saying that nobody knew who any of the top 10 was in this tournament. You can't have a marquee event if you don't have household names in it, because any other sport out there, people gravitate to sports that have people that they can follow. It's their heroes. It's their, people that are legendary. That's what people want to see. And this is what's happened here. This problem has been created completely by Bassmaster, because the reason that the well-known guys, the hammers, are working the classic booth and not in the tournament is they can't compete with that technology. They cannot compete with somebody that knows how to use the dang cheater box better than they do.
So with that,
I lose all respect for him for calling it a cheater box.
And whose fault is that? Like, who do we blame that on?
No.
Like, I don't see the argument there. I agreed with him about the marquee names, and yes, there was an influx of new people, new blood.
Yeah, but you have to have new guys coming that you don't know their names to develop new marquee names.
100%.
Kevin Van Dam. Nobody knew who he was. I remember saying to Chad Spence when he was up here once, and we were driving down 1,000 Island Parkway to cross over to go watch the weigh-in at the Open in New York. And we're driving along, and he's telling me about this kid, Kevin Van Dam. And I had no idea who he was. I had no idea.
Yeah. So, Richard, I have to say your question is a valid one. I'm sure it's asked a lot. Are more people getting into fishing because they have a better chance in catching a big fish because of technology?
No, because the people don't get into fishing and spend 10 grand.
Yeah. So and that's exactly what I would have said too. No, because Richard, I don't use it. And it's not. I'm not proud to say I don't use it. It's just I can't afford it. It's not.
I had it broached to me the other day with Richard from Hummingbird Minn Kota, the guy in Canada. He was sending my stuff to the marina for the boat this year. And he says, he asked me. He said, "Would you have interest in trying it?" He was going to give it to me. And I said to him, to tell you the truth, I'm going to use it 10, 15 times maybe, and I'm going to use it out the back here. So it's I'm at a point now where I can get by just fine with electronics or without them.
Well, and the thing is, if I'm going to be a competitive angler, then yes, absolutely. Is live scope going to be a tool for me? 100%. Just like a fluorocarbon, just like braided line, just like some of these high-end rods, the graphite rods.
I had a buddy of mine fishes the St. Lawrence a lot from the American side here. He had a guy call him from Montreal, and Trevor's well known for how well he can use like forward-facing sonar. The guy paid the guiding fee, $650 US, to fish with him for the day, and all he wanted him to do was teach him to use that.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what he paid him for.
Yeah,
he's told him, I don't care if I get a bite. I don't care if I catch a fish. And he brought his boat. They didn't use Trevor's. He brought his boat, and he basically paid the guy to set it up and get it working exactly the way it should be. Yeah. And I talked to him about it after, and he told me that the guy had contacted him 2 or 3 times and told him, I can't believe this. I can't believe the difference it's made. But, I remember when we had flashers, like we've been over this 100 times about the pixels.
Yeah.
you can't talk about it enough. It's just another, deal. And I'm sure that 5 or 10 years from now, there's going to be something that's going to make forward-facing sonar look like a joke.
I agree, 100%.
I used to say that about when they had the X16 paper graph. Remember that?
Yep.
I used to say, oh, they'll come up with something that's better than this.
Bill, I really like your point. Seems to me that you're not seeing a domination of the sport as much as it used to be. A more level playing field. Well, I don't know what. A more playing field for the most part. 100%. Totally agree. And of course, with that, I will lead into his next comment about live scope.
And apparently one of the leaders in the tournament yesterday that did really good, his live scope broke about 12 o'clock in the day. He never caught a fish after that. And then he made a comment this morning that, well, you got to see him before you can catch him. Guys, if that is not the most messed up thing I have ever heard in the sport of professional bass fishing, then you're really not paying attention to what bass fishing is.
He almost sounds bitter that things are changing.
And that's exactly how it feels to me as well. 100%. I
mean, when they started off fishing, what did they do? They threw a 6-inch plastic worm and a spinner bait.
Yeah.
Now, what do they do now? They throw chatterbaits. Well, look at the fish that were caught on chatterbaits on the weekend. You know what I mean? There's things just change. It's what it is.
So 2 baits that I wanted to mention. That was the blade baits, and I'm glad you brought that up. And the other, of course, pink. Lee was throwing this oddball plastic. It was a pink plastic, and it really caught the majority of his fish. But it seemed as if pink was kind of like an ixnay color to use. Is there something in bass that maybe I'm not aware of? Like, is a bad thing, a bad omen to use pink?
Jock and it works.
Okay, because I know it does.
I was kind of saying when I used to fish walleyes that when it wasn't good to fish ugly, and the number of times that I put on a 3-inch pink and chartreuse grub and started whacking them or something, things like that. And I've got pink jigs. Mark from Weapons of Bass Destruction, pink spinner baits, pink and white swim jigs right now are absolutely just the bomb. You can't sell them fast enough.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Randy, you're exactly right. You need to adapt and overcome. 100%, buddy.
Yeah. George has another great comment too. Now we see the latest, most expensive electronics in boats that cost more. And you're right. These things have a sticker price, but in some cases, these folks are sponsored. And when you're at the elite and you've managed to get to the classic, I don't think you're scrounging pennies together at that point. I don't think.
That's true.
I don't. So you're well decorated.
But for the average, I go out with guys and I fish with them, Scottie, and I give them a $30 lure, and they look at me and they say, "Well, I don't have a leader."
Yeah.
I say, "Well, don't worry about it. You shouldn't have one. Well, what happens if a bike eats it?" I said, "Well, you go in the box and get another one."
100%.
That's the way you have to be about stuff like that. Like when they have a baseball game, they don't only have one ball. If it gets hit out of the stands, that's it, boys.
Yeah. No, you're so right. And this, I truly love this comment about it being so shallow. I don't know how effective live scope was, given how shallow, especially on day 2 that they were fishing.
It works.
Good. Well, there you go. So there you hear it from the pros.
There's guys in the States that use it to practice. They practice docks now by looking with the live scope, not by shaking a fish off and hoping they don't hook it.
I love the comments, guys. We can't share them all because unfortunately Lawrence might hang up on us. He might not. He might not think we're going to get to him. So I want to tie this all in. Now, I think it's really important that we meet the champion. This guy Easton, who Dave Mercer has apropos called him Beaston. Because he was catching some big fish and managed to stay on top. His journey is really remarkable. I don't even know if we would have had the opportunity to meet this gentleman. And if you get a chance, I highly recommend. This is an article in Bassmaster that is written by Mike Schuhan, and he goes into great detail the struggles that this boy had from a health standpoint leading up to this tournament. They took out a 5.2 centimeter by 3.7 centimeter tumor out of his skull that if it had grown like one more centimeter, it would have gotten into a vessel that we would never have seen or had the opportunity to meet this gentleman.
Hey,
but
if it wasn't for those big advancements in medical instruments, he wouldn't be here.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So again, the folks at Bassmaster did a fantastic job putting little segments together. So let's meet the champ, because I'm a fan. After
I'm
seeing
always
this,
so happy for these young ones.
oh, this almost it melts your heart. I'll tell you.
Yes! Yes!
So whatever weird reason, every year when the new Classic champion holds a trophy over his head, I wonder to myself, is he going to represent the sport? Is he going to make a great champion? And it always seems to work out. I guarantee you,
Yes.
Easton Fothergill will make everyone in our sport proud.
One of the best young anglers I have met in a long time. If you fish high school, if you fish college, that is the dude to emulate.
Emulate him. Absolutely correct.
So with that being said, watching them all weekend, I truly became a friend, but I also a fan. I also became a fan of quite a few other anglers that I didn't know a lot about. As I said, the one gentleman that you just mentioned, I don't know where I put his name, but Hunter. I'm telling you, that kid,
He's been around for a long time.
So this brings me to how these young lads are starting to make it into bass, how they're getting into the Elite Series, how they're making it into the Bassmaster Classic. And this college series, Jim, is the real deal. And when you see
it's what gets them going. Like, that's not what gets you to the Classic, but it's what gets you going. I mean, he came into that, and when he fished the Opens, he won 2 Opens the first year that he fished.
So again, they have it in high school, and I have to say it, and folks in Canada might not appreciate me saying this, but when it comes to sports, no one, and I mean no one, does it better than the Americans. No one. They have the money to throw at it. They have the means to promote it, and they have the means of pushing up the next one. So there's always this seeding of new athletes, and we don't do it like that in Canada, other than hockey. Hockey's the only sport that I can think of that we do this seed. Even that is starting to see.
Like, we do have school fishing, but not at the level they have at the States.
Hell no. Hell no. So then one of the things that was asked, or talked about, with these newer anglers, these younger anglers becoming, let's face it, the champions, because, at the end of the day, this kid, his life is going to change forever. And how is he going to cope with that? How is he going to be a representative bass? How is he going to be a mentorship to other anglers? Well, I'll tell you, for a guy who was probably exhausted and the adrenaline rush that he had just lost, he was so articulate when asked this question by Dave Mercer. I have to play it.
Is for all you kids out there, I'm living proof that it is possible. I took the Bassmaster route. They provide the opportunity. Just work your way up the ranks, start at the junior, the high school, the college, and it is possible. That's the reason why I'm here. That college bracket tournament is the reason why I fish the Opens. And, I ended up having a blessed year in the Opens, and that's the reason why I'm here today. So it is possible. Just dream big, work hard, and anything's possible.
Really funny to hear him to talk about you kids, and he looks like he's barely old enough to own a razor.
But you're 100% right, Jim. But think of his message, and the place was just inundated with young kids. They were running all over the place. What a message delivery! What a delivery of a fantastic message that he just passed on to young anglers who, like him, are probably sitting at the edge of their seat, wishing, "I want to so badly be like him." Oh,
Well, the bottom line is, Scottie, everybody, when they bass fish, that gets into tournaments and that, and they get up there a bit, you ask them one thing: what would you like to win? It's the Bassmaster Classic.
amen.
There's nothing else out there. It's the Bassmaster Classic. It's the show. and it's just what it is. It's you know,
So
it's cool.
let us now that we've shared all the rhetoric, we've shared both sides of the story, we've exposed some maybe some potential flaws. I don't know. At the end of the day, there's been a lot of negative and a lot of positive, but I want to tie this all in on something that I think is being missed by all of this. Whether it's live scope or not, I don't care, because if it is, whatever. But at the end of the day, you, Jim, myself, and everybody else, what do we always say? Take a kid fishing. We got to get the next generation of anglers into fishing. Well, guess what, folks? There they are. There is a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old on the stage as the finalist in the Bassmaster Classic. If we don't start embracing this for what it is, we're missing the boat. We're completely missing the boat. I don't give a shit if it's, and I apologize, I'm wound up about this, as you can tell. I don't care if it's forward-facing sonar, if it's 250s and 300 horsepowers, if it's the state of the live wells, the G-juices, all of the products they use. I could care less. At the end of the day, this is the future of the industry. And instead of pumping it up like we should, we have certain somebodies, I won't mention names, that are shitting on it. And we shouldn't. We should be embracing this.
No, because it's what it is. Evolution happens to everything. Everything changes. And you know, all changes are not for the best in some people's minds, but it's still for the best for the sport because it's what it's going to be. It's not going back.
Absolutely.
You know, like I told you, I often liken life to the old farmer that I knew telling me about that he couldn't wait for when we went back to having family farms again.
Yeah.
And I tried to explain to him that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
We've passed that. There's not enough. There's too many people now. Family farms don't work. You know. Yeah, sure, a family farm works if you want to take your kids and go, live off the grid, do that. But I mean, that's the only way it works, because farms are to feed people. That's what they grow. You know, and it's what it is, and it's the same thing. It's an evolution, and things very seldom back up. Very, very seldom.
Well, as I said, the one thing after all this that I'd put together, I wanted to make a point. And the point is, we talk a great game. We need to get youth into fishing. We need to bring up the next generation of anglers for the sake of the industry, for the sake of the fishery, you name it. Well, all I can say, folks, is Bassmaster did a fantastic job, because the next generation of crafters in this industry, those who are going to be looking after the fisheries within the states and areas that they come from, are right freaking there. There they are.
They could be like the next good old boys.
There you go.
In 15 years from now.
And I think that is what's being missed with all of this rhetoric. Is the message is this is the next generation. Bassmaster, although, you can talk about how long the weigh-in is, the dead fish that were potentially seen on TV. I don't care about any of that right there. This is such a celebration of bringing youth into the sport that I think is being lost by people that are trying to, push and advocate for points that really at the end of the day aren't as important as that. That is, to me, the most important thing that I really loved about the event. And the fact that it really potentially came down to the last fish caught. Jim, we mentioned, I really do believe.
Did we look and see? Did you look and see how far apart he was?
Yeah.
From the second place. I don't know if it's more than 8 pounds 1 ounce, he wouldn't have won without that fish, because he only caught 5 the last day. He had no fish to call. So
I know it's
without media coverage. I remember a buddy of mine, Larry Bourgeois. He's much older than me. And he's the guy who introduced me to In Fisherman, to what it was. He knew about it before I did. And he was the guy that the first day I ever fished with a plastic worm in my life at Clayton Lake. Remember I told you about going for a ride and sitting there a few weeks ago and thinking about that? It's something that went on like 60 years ago, 58 years ago, whatever it was. And he introduced me to the In Fisherman and was with me the first time I ever fished with a plastic worm. And you remember things like that, but look how much has changed. It's, and it's what it is. And either you either you move with it or you get lost. And that's why Randy's where he is now. And I got no bone to pick. I got no bone to pick with him.
Either do I.
He's entitled to his opinion. It's the way he sees it. And there's people out there that, they calls it the way they sees it. And, I mean, when I grew up, like when I started off in this, who did I know? Like I mean, or like the people that were out there, Roland Martin, Bill Dance, Al Linder was fishing bass tournaments back then. There was about 6 or 8 big names back then too. Ricky Green, Roger Moore, not the guy that played James Bond, another guy called Roger Moore. But there was all guys, and these guys, they're all gone now.
Yeah.
They're all
Jim,
gone. Now we're on to the next match.
I have a certain sense of envy too, because can you imagine if you and I had met when we were like 15 and then we were doing this when we were in our 20s? Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine? I just think it's so empowering and I don't know, it's so refreshing to see this influx of youth. Although it might upset the hierarchy, if you will, at the end of the day, what is happening to this sport is something that we need to embrace.
If you want the sport to grow, this has to happen, or else it'll just turn into a good old boys club, and eventually nobody will like it.
Well, Jim, as I said, we have spent an hour discussing this, and I couldn't have imagined doing it with anyone better than you.
I gotta say something that's really cool. This has been probably the best CFN ever for me, because you know how I feel about you. I love you like a brother.
Likewise, it goes both ways.
You've done things for me that are just incredible, and I appreciate you forever for that. But to see you get wound up, it's the first time I've ever seen you wound up like this over the sport that I loved, made my living in. I think it's really cool. I was talking to a buddy today he said, I tried to get to talk to you at the Ottawa show, but you were busy doing as he called it, a fishing talk seminar. He doesn't really fish, but he had his kid. His kid went to the pond, and he said the kid was all excited. Somebody gave him a big rabbit and a sucker or candy or something. That would have been Jennifer and Steve, and he was all excited, like and everything else. And he says to me, I remember going to that pond as a kid in Ottawa. And he said, how many years have you been doing that? Wow. And I said, last year was the 30th year.
Wow. For
the pond in Ottawa that I'd done that pond, and things like that. I mean, we used to get close to 2,000 kids when it was at the Aberdeen Pavilion. Now, we probably get 800, 1,000.
Yeah.
But, maybe a little more, but something like that. So if you average it out over the 30 years, you're probably looking at 40,000 kids that pond has introduced to fishing.
Yeah.
Like, so, a lot of those kids, we've talked about it so many times, are into fishing. They come, they tell me, like, they contact me on Facebook, or, are you the big Jim with the pond at the show?
Yeah.
That's how I feel, things like that. Or they just say, hey, I saw you at the show again, whatever. I mean, there's the guy that comes with the book. He's got his kids with me holding his baby when it was like 6 years old. And that was the kid that came with the trophy out of the bag to me.
Yeah.
So Bassmaster, stuff like that. That's what it's all about. You push it, it just gets better.
To end this, and as I said, the love goes both ways. But all I can say is I learned from the best.
Thank you.
Thanks
for coming with me last week there. I know we didn't have to. We hit the jackpot, We hit the jackpot with the parking spot at the front door. I couldn't believe that. I drove up and I says to Lewis, I said, is that a parking spot? He goes, yeah. And I'm looking at it. And he goes, what are you waiting for?
Oh, that's so awesome.
I backed in there when I was there, right? So when I came out from having a test done, it was like an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
He's asleep in the front seat, and I pulled the door open and I yelled, what are you doing in Big Jim's truck? Well, he hit the roof. He literally came this far out of the seat.
That's
he was
hilarious.
Straight up and down,
Jim, we'll see you at Cancast, my friend. Looking forward to it.
I'll have the gun show out, though.
Can't wait.
No!
Can't wait, buddy. You get some rest.
I'll be if anybody wants to come down, I'll be at Gagnon's on Friday a little after noon until 6, 7 o'clock. And then I'll be back in the morning. And I'll be there till about 3. And then I'm up to Peterborough and I'll be at Cancast. And then we got to come home and finish just fishing because we're quickly getting behind again.
Well,
It's what
I just-
happens.
it does. We all got work to do, and
Well, it's because it's the time of year when everything's.
100%. Yeah.
I've been really, really busy too, and we're a little slower than we used to be at doing things. You know, Tammy puts in 3 or 4 hours a day. No more 8-hour days for her. So
Right on, buddy. Well, you take care.
I told her she was
Wait,
playing
see
the
ya.
job.
I might come and see you at Gagnon's on Friday.
That's a deal, buddy. I'll be there.
All right, man.
Come, you talk to me before you come. I got to get you to bring me something good to eat because I'm really involved in the health binge right now.
All right. Sushi it is. We got Lawrence coming up right after this word from our sponsor. Take care.
Good, kiddies.
Is Flash Boost. Shimano designed innovative Flash Boost technology. It keeps flashing, which attracts fish whether in a pause or while retrieving. The mirror plate, which is fixed by a spring inside the body, vibrates with the lure action to generate diffuse reflection. Even if you stop the lure action, the inner plate will move and continue to flash, giving the lure a sense of life and inviting a fish bite. This is Flash Boost.
There is the one and only Lawrence. Thanks so much for being patient, dude. As I said, that was a segment that I was looking forward to, I think, more than Jim, simply because the message at the end of it is what's something that it's been missed in all of this. And as I said, I couldn't have thought or planned to do it with anybody better than Big Jim. But
oh no, I was riveted to that conversation, and I'm thinking, man, I hope someone's recording this. And I was, oh yeah, Scottie's recording this on Facebook. That was good. Yeah, that was.
I try to stay as neutral as possible through all of this. You know that we've been doing this long enough, but that was something that after it was over. It was burning, and it was burning inside because, you know, having to listen to Randy go off and certain others complaining about, you know, people not having bums in the seats and all this. It's like, guys, you're missing what's going on the stage. Like, geez. Anyway, I'm just glad I got it out.
It was a really good dissection of that whole situation, and I think. Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, there's people who are slow to change, right? Oh, we don't need electricity. It's going to bring evil spirits into the house, you know, and there's always that. There's always people who, you know, are slow to change and not willing to embrace something new. And not everything new is always great. I mean, but it comes, and there's not much you can do about it. It's just there. I tell you a couple little side stories on that forward-facing sonar I've heard myself. Just one actually is I was talking to a friend of mine. You know, I used to be a member of. I was the conservation director for years for the Ottawa Valley, South Valley Bassmasters. They've got about 40, 50 members. Over half are non-boaters, right? Over half. And these are people who are getting into fishing, interested in getting into fishing, don't own a boat, or maybe own a boat, but don't feel comfortable taking someone out fishing on a tournament day because they just don't know enough about bass fishing, and want to learn about bass fishing and join this club because there's a random assignment of non-boaters to boaters, and then they fish together as a team. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of boaters that have adopted the forward-facing sonar, and if you're on the back of the boat with someone who's fishing at the front of the boat who has this forward-facing sonar, it can be a pretty boring day. Apparently, a pretty boring day. You're out there cruising around, you know, moving around in the lake. There's no targets to cast at from the back of the boat. You know, you're not going to cast over the guy's head in front of the boat. You know, that's not on. And unless you get invited to the front of the boat to be up there on the front of the boat with the boater, which never happens, you're going to have that. You're just going to be fishing blind off the back of the boat in water that's probably too deep to really effectively fish with the boat moving in a forward direction at a you know, moderate speed of maybe 5 kilometers an hour kind of thing. You're not going to get your bait down there. So it's a bit of a frustrating day. That's for sure. So, you know, maybe we just need to look at how that's all going to unfold. And, you know, they've done rules. They've got a whole list of rules for tackling stuff like that. You know, if it wasn't that, it was people going into weed beds with the front of the boat and occupying all the good territory to pitch to, and the person at the back of the boat had nothing to pitch to, and then they came up with rules for that and stuff. But it's just going to take some smart thinking, some people working together to figure this stuff out.
100%. And Alicia echoes your sentiment. It's not only boring, but almost darn near impossible. So again, and I haven't had a lot of time with forward-facing sonar. What I have seen, I've been truly impressed with. Certainly does make a good angler even better. I don't know about, like you think about it. Okay, if you have all the money in the world and you just want to get into angling, and you go out and buy forward-facing sonar, does that make you a professional angler? Does that make you an elite angler? No, it gives you an edge up on some of your partners that can't afford it. But I don't think that the forward-facing sonar makes you the angler that everybody thinks it is. You as an angler have to be that good in order for it to just tune and make your skills that much better. I don't know. Again, I don't see the big concern. I think I look at it more from a conservation standpoint for recreational anglers than the tournament anglers. But that's me digressing.
We were ice fishing a few weeks ago, and we had our big shelter set up, and we were all comfortable inside. And there's 3 young guys off in the distance a little ways. They got no shelter, just a little sled, and they've got forward-facing sonar. Right? They can't afford a shelter, but they got forward-facing sonar.
There you go. Yeah.
So they're coming into our. We say, come on, come in and get warmed up when you need to, because they're freezing to death out there. But they want to get that's their thing, and you see that more and more, right? People are shelling out for this. It's not the last thing they're buying now. It's one of the first things, but. So it's not, you're not going to turn that around. You're not going to turn that around. You got to figure out, okay, how are we going to embrace this? And one of the things, look, I'm no different. Look here. What's that?
That is a box. I don't see the
no, hang on. Maybe I'll turn it around. Let me see what's on this side.
There you go. That is a Garmin Live Scope, baby.
Yeah. There you go. So we bought that for the Bluefish Explorer, so that people will have a chance, our guests on the boat will have a chance to see more accurately the fish and the fish habitat, combined with other down imaging and side imaging. They'll have an understanding, okay, look, that's the habitat, and look, there's a fish. There's a fish. There that could be a muskie. If you get the profile right and you're close enough, you can actually identify the species of the fish. And just because we want to show people where the fish are, where the fish live, and that there's actually a cornucopia of fish living in downtown Ottawa.
Yeah.
Downtown Ottawa, this is the biggest, beautiful, capital of Canada, and it's chock-a-block full of amazing fish, from sturgeon to gar to muskie to pike to walleye, everything. And we
really, at the end of the day, isn't that doesn't that add to the experience? Knowing that you don't necessarily think those fish are there, but all of a sudden you pass over them and it's like the light goes on. It's like, whoa, I don't have to travel, a kilometer up the river to get to that point that I've always traditionally caught fish. They're right freaking here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're right there in the middle in the middle of the city. Right in the middle of the city. So, wake up, hello. This isn't just, a nice stretch of water to look at from the surface on your tour boat, and then look at all the Parliament and all of the rest of it from, on land from the position on the boat. No, look, there's a whole bunch of life right below the boat and all through this river. Don't take it for granted, right? Don't take it for granted. And so to be able to work with the scientists, and then this will also help scientists catch fish, tag fish, monitor fish. Yeah, we're not going to be able to track it with this, but you look at the in the Great Lakes, and now all the way coming up the St. Lawrence River, the number of receivers that have been put into the lake to monitor the many thousands of fish that have been tagged with these transponders that have been sewn into their stomachs. Right, we're watching fish move around like crazy. Lake trout that spawn in the lower Niagara River in the spring, and then by the summertime they're in Kingston, feeding in Kingston for the summer, and then back in the next spring they're back at the Niagara River. These fish move around, right? It's amazing. We're learning about fish It's amazing, and we wouldn't be able to do it without technology.
And really, who didn't love, like, I mean, that video went viral when they put the telemetry in Lake Erie, and they posted that, seeing how far walleye travel, and of course muskie was also tagged as well to see how far they would travel, and you know, a lot of what we think we know about fish is learned from electronics, and without that telemetry project, we would never have learned how far walleye actually travel, how far muskie travel. I know a lot of folks would think that they, you know, and typically in some bodies of water, they sit on that grass bed. And I know anglers that go back every year to that same grass bed and catch that same fish. I'm not taking that point away. But there's our opportunities, like you just mentioned, right downtown Ottawa. You would never have thought those fish were there. And lo and behold, they are.
There they are. There they are. Now, you know, you don't need this technology to be a muskie guide. I was talking to John Anderson, and he's up there talking at a seminar at the boat show, Ottawa Boat Show. You know, you need electronics. He's saying that you want to catch muskie, you need electronics. There's no doubt about it. You're going to need electronics. The muskie are on the bottom most of the time feeding. They're in the shallows when they're metabolizing and getting ready to go feed again. And but you need electronics. And then I asked him afterwards, I said, John, did you get the forward-facing sonar? And he goes, I don't need it, Lawrence. And he doesn't. He knows where all the spots are on the Ottawa River. He knows all the muskie personally. I think he's helped give birth to some of them. You know, he's
and I have to agree. You're right. And it's funny because when I went to the Muskie Odyssey, they really revere John as a god when it comes to that fish.
Yeah,
they really do. The folks, you know, they put him on a pedestal, but he's earned that. I mean, you know, the time on the water, the dedication that he has towards that fish, the dedication he's had towards Muskies Canada as a whole. You know, he really should be revered the way he is. But it's nice to see good people being acknowledged for good things that they're doing, because you know, John's salt of the earth.
And then you got Lisa Goodyear guiding on the Ottawa River with Ottawa River Muskie Factory with John, and she's using forward-facing sonar, and she says, you know, it's really allowed her to put people on fish in ways that you could never do it before. There's some cribs on the river that were left over from the logging boom, and she's using the technology to jig for muskie around those cribs. And she's telling the guides, you know, her guests, okay, reel in so they don't lose their baits on the edges of the cribs. But she's getting them to drop their baits right in around the edges of these cribs where these muskies are hanging out, and they're vertically jigging for them. So that's pretty cool.
It is. And I did not know that you could jig for muskie. It was a video that I think Cooper and Moose put together when they went up north. They did, I forget what it was called, the journey, or it was part of the chase. I'm not sure, but they went up north, and that's where they learned and showed the rest of us that I know nothing about muskie compared to some. And you can jig for these fish, and that looked pretty darn cool.
Yeah. John Bondi, I think he might have started that on the Detroit River with his Bondi baits, right? His big rubbery minnows that, you know, they use those things for everything. Now they use those for jigging for lake trout up in Lake Athabasca, and where we have giant lake trout. You have these giant 8-10 inch Bondi baits. They're jigging them up. You know, you name it. These Bondi baits, man, they're being applied to all sorts of, and that's all electronics. You would never be able to do any of that, you know, successfully if you didn't have electronics.
No, agreed, buddy. Agreed. Yeah. Sorry, I know we've talked a lot about electronics. I know you've got some segments that you want to get to. So I don't want to. What's that?
I got a few. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, buddy.
Do it.
Okay. So I was talking to my friend Mark Madsen. He is the president of Swim Drink Fish Canada, and he's a former Lake Ontario waterkeeper. And I wanted to get a little state of the situation report from him on what's going on with the Great Lakes, with all the announcements that are coming out of the United States and Canada. And you know, I said, I'm worried, and he's got 35 years as a lawyer. He's been advocating for Great Lakes protections, right? Yeah. So, you know, he's been around the block a few times on this, and he's seen good things come and go. And you have to listen to his podcast that'll be out soon, and on the Bluefish Radio Show, and you just, it might put your mind rest a little bit. But before you need to put your mind at rest, let's get your mind all worked up with some news.
Oh, boy.
So the U.S. Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, just undermined the rules around the release of toxicities into the water by industry. And that totally undermines the 1972 Clean Waters Act, right? This is about, what can you dump into the who has to take responsibility? If you're dumping stuff, do you have to not dump it before you can prove that you can, or does someone have to prove that you can't? It's a little complicated, but this is definitely loosened things up, and not in a good way, right? Not in a good way. It's deregulation for industry. It's removing red tape. Call it what you want. But in the end, it's going to be the Great Lakes and other coastlines and shorelines and water bodies that are going to pay the price. And it's unfortunate. But
why?
Why?
What is the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think it has to do with the Supreme Court in the United States saying, look, if the law doesn't specifically say what you can and cannot do, bureaucrats can't just make it up. A lot of laws were sort of written in sort of general sort of kind of ideas or philosophies or must-dos, but didn't really get into the details on exactly how and what and when and where, right? Didn't really iron out the regulations and the how-tos and wherefores and all of that stuff. So they left it to regulators. But now the Supreme Court is saying, no, you can't have bureaucrats creating rules. It has to be the lawmakers creating the rules. So they're pulling a lot of this back, and you're starting to see the effect of this, and it's just going to keep happening. Any government regulations and policies and guidelines that aren't reflecting 100% accurately what's in the act, what's in the law that was passed by the elected politicians, is not valid anymore.
That is, oh my Lord, that is so troubling to hear.
Mm-hmm. It is troubling. So let me throw some good news into this.
Oh, well, before we do,
yeah,
I think at the end of the day, what this now takes is it takes out of the equation that we can vote diplomacy in, that we can vote legislation, or we can vote an opinion that mirrors our own. So in other words, regardless of your party of choice, if so-and-so advocates for the dumping of this, and that it's a bad thing, yet party over here says, no, we're not going to allow that. Now you can't do that. You have to then pay an exorbitant amount of dollars to get a lawyer team involved to prove that what they're doing is illegal. Can you imagine the time, red tape? Mm-hmm. Some people could pass away before a ruling's made. I mean, we know how the court systems run.
Oh yeah, and then if you fail to prove your case, then the person you've taken to court can sue you for costs, right?
Yeah.
So there's a double indemnity there. That you if you're going to take someone on, if you're going to take on Goliath, and you lose, Goliath is going to come back and sue you for everything you're worth for wasting their time.
Exactly. I didn't even get into that because, of course, defamation of character and everything that's
there's
associated
that too.
with that.
There's that too. Yeah. Yeah. So this has really changed the whole regulatory landscape for the United States government in just about everything. Hey, some people are saying that these changes are also going to mean that people in the United States can remove the diesel emission fluid from their diesel trucks and take that out of their trucks, but that's not the case. So don't get excited about that. That was an actual rule passed by the U.S. Congress that you have to have that in, and you can't take it out of your truck. So
that's correct.
But if that hadn't been a rule, if that Congress hadn't actually passed that law, man, people would be pulling that stuff out of their truck right now.
Yep. A
lot of people would who don't believe in it, or just don't want the cost of it, or the expense of repairing it. So it's this is gonna bounce around in the United States.
Knowing all about that, I have to say I don't have a dog in the fight, but I really do sit on the fence because I see both sides of that argument. It has definitely driven costs up.
Mhm.
Material itself and what it's made out of is questionable in terms of what it's actually doing.
You're talking the diesel emission fluids, yeah, the DEF
Exactly,
stuff.
DEF
Yeah,
fluid,
yeah,
not
yeah.
to mention those filters. They
Mhm.
burn so freaking hot and they break down. You have housings that crack constantly. So there is a cost associated with them.
Yeah,
And
expensive. It's not cheap to run a diesel
No.
these days.
No,
It can get expensive.
I'm on the fence with that one. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, environment's important, but also common sense has to play into it as well. And that's why
Well, I know when I'm behind my diesel hooking up, the trailer,
Yep.
and the motor's running, and I think, man, I should shut that off. But then I don't even smell anything coming out of the exhaust pipe. I don't smell anything, and I don't hear anything. I can hear the Cummins engine when I walk around to the front of the truck, or if I'm standing beside the truck, but when I'm around behind the truck,
Exactly.
I don't hear it coming out of the exhaust, and I don't smell it coming out of the exhaust, which is okay with me when we're hooking up and I'm communicating with my wife who's driving, and then, back a little more, go forward a little more, we can hear each other, and I'm not choking to death on nitrous oxide coming out of that tailpipe. So yeah, there's good and bad, but I know, man, it's gonna hurt us when that thing breaks. That's for sure. So here's the flip side of that story, buddy.
Okay.
So Canada is going to add most of these PFAS chemicals, these what everyone's calling forever chemicals, onto the to the list of toxic substances. And that means, instead of, like, right now, we know there's about 16,000 variations of these chemicals, and that Canada and the United States have agreed to add about 6 of them out of the 16,000 to a list of what they call chemicals of mutual concern. Canada's just stepping ahead and saying, you know what, let's just add them all, and a good chunk of them, and because we know, it would be ridiculous if we had to do each chemical one at a time, and there's 16,000 of them, and they'll just keep making more variations. They'll never get ahead of the curveball on that, right?
Yeah.
So what's that mean for us? Firefighting foams, food packaging, and clothing, things like fire retardant on children's clothing, or water repellent on those cheap bass pants us fishermen love to buy off Amazon, for $30 and go fishing with, right? That's all PFAS chemicals. The toxic, causing cancer crap gets into your bloodstream, never leaves your bloodstream.
Jeez.
Food packaging, and even those paper straws that we're supposed to be replacing the plastic straws with, they're water repellent because they're sprayed with PFAS chemicals.
No.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah. And even the the firefighting foam is one of the toughest ones. You're thinking, holy crap, how are they going to put out fires on airports and boats and stuff like that? Well, you know what? There's a lot of countries that have already mandated alternatives and have found good non-toxic alternatives to put into firefighting foams that work just as well. So, where there's a will, there's a way. So this is I think helpful for Canada. How are we going to enforce this if all the chemicals are coming in from the United States? This is going to be a challenge, but made in Canada, maybe, right? Yeah, baby, let's make it in Canada and do it the right way.
That's interesting. Yes. I mean, I like how we rounded it in a positive way, but I can't believe that we went from plastic to not harm the environment, which inevitably won't harm us, to introducing paper that has something that's even more toxic in it than the plastic itself.
Yeah, plastic is a plastic straw is pretty innocuous. It's not, and you're not going to get cancer from a plastic straw, but that paper one, man, once it starts to break down, that's not great.
Jeez.
That's not great. So if you want to get yourself your own personal straw, there's another reason to do it.
Incredible. Well, you know what? We have time for one more, Lawrence. If you have one more news article,
Okay.
We've got time for one more.
So Alberta has released a 7-point aquatic invasive species strategy. Guess what their number one biggest concern is in Alberta for aquatic invasive species?
I would have to say bass.
Mussels. Zebra mussels.
Mussels.
Yeah. How the hell did zebra mussels get from the Great Lakes?
No, zebra mussels.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. How did that happen? Like, what the heck? So, but I mean, Alberta's on it, man. Manitoba's on it. They're on this. They see a problem with some of their lakes. They're monitoring it now and putting in place, clean, rinse, dry kind of provisions for boaters. Alberta's getting into the act now too. They're realizing, that boats and canoes and things like that are carrying these things around. So yeah, we're moving them around pretty effectively. Pretty freaking crazy, man. That these aren't being big ships going into Alberta. This is little boats and canoes and kayaks and things like that.
Is it possible, Lawrence, that it's the birds that are transporting zebra
I don't know.
mussels?
They thought that might be the case with fish eggs, right? But that they did a lot of research on that and turned out that wasn't the case. The chance of a duck having a bit of weed stuck to their foot with some fish eggs hanging on it and those eggs successfully being moved to another location, I don't know. I mean, birds, I don't think they fly from east to west so much. They go south, north kind of thing. I don't know what birds are flying from Ontario to Alberta.
I would never have thought zebra mussels.
Yeah.
I would never have thought that. Wow. That far inland, they still pose a threat.
But you know what? We're on it. We got provinces that are implementing strategies to counteract it. Manitoba, Alberta, Ontario, we're all got plans. We all got strategies. People are stepping up and taking charge. So, no Supreme Court saying, no, you can't do that. There's no law saying you have to do that. Well, we're doing it, and we're hopefully going to, slow down the spread, if not prevent the spread. That would be great. And that's good. So here's one little other thing. So see Lamprey, that documentary I was talking about a few weeks ago about the fish thief. So a whole bunch of employees were just let go from the U.S. government that are involved with introducing lampricide into the rivers on the American side of the Great Lakes to control lamprey.
I heard that. I'm glad you brought that up. I did hear that. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely a concerning issue. With what we have right now, the infrastructure that is supposed to impede their travel and migration is starting to break down. We have fluctuations of water. Like we need all hands on deck when it comes to this, and to see that it being taken away, or we don't think we need it anymore approach. That's troubling too. Wow. Jeez, that's
it's worrying. Look, we saw with COVID when these scientists weren't able to get out into the field and do it for a year and a half.
Yeah,
the lamprey numbers jumped up, and we see that like in 2024 and 2023, the lamprey numbers jumped up a lot, 100%. And people were seeing them on the fish. Anglers were reporting it. It just that little bit, that one miss 1 year. And boom, now the numbers coming back down again because it's all hands on deck again. But oh my God, if it can get out of control that quickly, I hope these people aren't laid off in any sort of permanent way, and it was just a mistake and they get rehired or something happens. I can't imagine this was intentional, but let's monitor that situation, buddy.
Right on, dude. Well, listen, as always, thanks so much for bringing us up to date with what we need to know. And of course, there are lots of topics out there. Some we can discuss, some we'd rather not, because of course, I don't want to touch on things. And you had mentioned it before we went live that there are certain things that we shouldn't discuss before we know all the facts. And I hate
I head up a charity, and as that, I can't be taking political sides, right?
No, 100%, dude. And I think what we have done, especially tonight, is do a great job of sharing what's important to the anglers without necessarily taking sides, but allowing them to think for themselves and perhaps formulate their own conclusion. But as always, Lawrence, you are a wealth of knowledge. Thanks so much for all you do, my friend. Truly appreciate it.
Keep it up, Scottie. That was dynamite with you and Big Jim, man. That was a fantastic sort of, you dissected that situation wonderfully. Great job, buddy.
Awesome, bud. I appreciate that. Well, we've got Moose and Kyle coming up next. They're going to be talking about Cancasts and all the wonderful things that we can expect this Sunday. But before we do, let's play a video just in case you haven't seen it.
Is Canada's largest all fishing event in one jam-packed day. It's all fishing, no fillers, and you won't find a slipper here. Whether you're looking for rods and reels, boats, or fishing electronics, we have everything. From the biggest fishing retailers to bait makers, seminars from the pros, celebrity appearances, a huge boat yard, and a massive used tackle swap. And the best part, it's a family-friendly event and kids under 12 are free. So join us right here on March 30th at the Peterborough Memorial Center and get everything you need to get on the water this season. Get your tickets now at cancast.show.
There you go. There we are, Kyle.
What's up, buddy?
I tell you, it is. We've had so many shares. There's so much that's uploaded and ready to go in the lobby that it's hard with these old eyes to figure out where it all is. But again, I got to ask you, where in the heck have you found the time to be with us tonight? Because, dude, I can't begin to imagine how much you've got on the go.
It's a good break. Can you hear me okay? For one, my earphones are working. Okay.
Perfect.
Me and Leanne were just sitting here floor planning. Even though we put this out already, we had to rejig a couple things. It always happens, right? So it's I don't know, it's a good little break, Scottie. This is kind of like doomsday leading up to Dooms week leading up to D-Day, whatever you want to call it. I'm losing my mind, but it's I don't know. We've been working on this one all year long. So as much as I want to say we got a ton of stuff to do this week, we're in pretty good shape.
We talk about it, Kyle, at great length.
Yeah.
100%. We talk about this every year. Cancast, in my opinion, is a show. It's the little show that grew. But what the amount of effort and attention to detail that you continuously put in every year. Are you ever going to think that you're going to hit a wall? Like, what more could we possibly do?
Yeah, I think there's definitely things that we could do better. Always, we're far from perfect, Scottie. Is this going to be the best one we've ever done? 100%. Like, this isn't like a hype machine that, Kyle's running around posting videos saying this is going to be the best, get whatever. This is literally going to be the biggest and best Cancast. I don't know if you guys had a chance to check out that vendor list yet. How serious is that vendor list? Every single person on that list has a booth. That's not like, hey, like they're giving us something to give away. Like, that is like they're there. They are set up. Like, they are ready to rock. They're ready to show you stuff. New product launches, give you guys the deals. The show just kind of has the best of all that, right? We get all the new product launches after the Bassmaster Classic for those guys. This year, a big part of me was let's improve the trolling section. We got a ton of trolling vendors coming. So all you salmon guys out there, we got all the spoons. Scottie's coming, Great Ontario Salmon Derby, all those guys, you name it. We got a dealer coming with a blowout deal on Mercury Pro kickers. If you need one for your boat, like a couple $1,000 off. All sorts of stuff. So yeah, crazy deals. We're going to post them up this week. Like, it is nuts. And my problem I'm having is, thanks to the wonderful world of Facebook and Instagram, and Moose knows all about this. They are like, I can't get all the news out there. Like, they're burying me. You know what I mean? Like, I went on there, did a video today about all the free stuff we're giving away at the show. And like, I can't even get to it all. It's just, this one is going to be a different level. So even if you've came to Cancast before, expect a different product this time. We're going better. For sure.
Holy smokes. Well, yes, Bruce, you have certainly taught us a thing or two when it comes to social media and how to promote things. But one thing I have to say, you've been a part of this right from the get-go. And again, Kyle has an incredible team. You're as much a part of it, I think, as anybody else. But again, I just don't know how this venue and your team is able to continuously up the bar. Like, you just keep making it a better show and still allowing it to be reasonable for those to go. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's the Canadian version of iCast, I'll tell you.
I think the coolest part about Cancast is to see where it came from Bowmanville, to see what Kyle's done with it. Do you keep it at where it's at, or do you continuously grow? And we all know the challenges with growing, as both of you know. With a trade show, there's something to be said about 1 day, and there's something to be said about 2 days, and there's something to be said about 3 days. And then, you can get as big as the boat show and do 10 days. But at the end of the day, what is most valuable? What makes the most sense in our economy today for our vendors, for the people that are going to come and shop? So I think you've nailed it. The way you and Leanne have kind of set it up, it can't get any better than this. It can get bigger than this, but I don't think it can get any better than this.
Yeah, it's honestly, we're really overwhelmed by the support this year. It started off slow, and I think you and me's talked about this, Scottie. And there's times where I'm frustrated, right? Like you're like, I feel like I proved the product. Why is nobody signing up? And you always get like the first 100 sign up, and then you chase the rest of them. And I just stopped chasing this year. I'm like, I'm not doing it. And they all called me, and it worked out. I just think it's tough because as show promoters, we want to commit to doing this every year, and a handful of vendors step up right away, and like I said, and then some of them hold back and kick tires. And I always looked as a partnership. Hey, are we in business or are we not? Let's go. We going next year. I'm going to book the building a year in advance. We going? We're going. All right. And my job has always been, look, I can only control what's in my control. That's one thing I've learned about it. And I think Moose will echo this. I've been so much calmer this year. Like I have this like, yeah, we're down. Whatever happens, happens. Like nothing's bugging me. It's like the weather. Hey, it's looking like it's going to rain Sunday now. If that stops fishermen from coming out, a little bit of rain when 98% of the show's inside, you're crazy. I can't control the weather, but I can control what we do in those buildings, right? So that's what we're doing. It's been awesome so far. I'm honestly just lost for words because I don't even know where to start right now because there's so many topics we should be going over. But I just want to get the point across that I'm not hyping this up to be like, hey, this is going to be bigger. You should, like, I'm telling you right now, I told you I was going to deliver the most vendors, and I'm going to deliver it, and it looks phenomenal. Everything from muskie guys. Muskie is the largest growing portion of our show right now. We got more muskie vendors than we ever have, and every year they keep coming. We got great guys like, Mike from Handlebars, Frank, obviously, from Thirsty Lures, Muskie Maniacs, Real Aggression, Barbarian Braid this year, Dadson Blade Dates, Blackfly. I'm missing people too here, so I'm just getting a few out there. But the muskie section is getting bigger and bigger. We got an awesome muskie panel. Waterwolf, that's what I'm missing with Mike. Yeah, we got Mike, Frank, Corey, John, all on that panel. Like, it's going to be awesome. So that's a huge section of the show this year, muskie. And it's only growing from there. Everything multi-species. Somebody got this reputation going around that we're a bass-only show, and it blew me away. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I'm like, pardon? Where did that come from?
Maybe it's because and again, this is me stirring the pot. Maybe it's because the bass anglers are the chirpiest. They're the ones that have the most lip. They do a lot of yipping and yapping.
Yeah.
I might be one of them as well. I might be a bass angler as well. Yeah. But listen, over the past 14, 15 years, you bass anglers are the lippiest. They're the talkers.
And maybe
not in a bad way.
Yeah. And maybe it's because there's the most of them, arguably, maybe. There's the more bass. But here's my thing. If I can control what I control, my job as a promoter is to pack that building. I'm going to do that job. If I put 5,000 people in front of you and they don't buy something, that is out of my control. But my job is I pack the building. You vendors bring the good stuff. And every year, these vendors just get better and better and better. And they bring the good stuff. And everybody has a great show. And it's all trade shows are all about what you make them as a vendor. It's not just what you sell a day of the show, but who did you talk to? Who did you meet? The residual business after. How much branding and marketing did you get out there? And we've had some amazing brands literally build their whole brand at Cancast. They took our platform. They met thousands of people. They got social media following from it. They did contests in their booths. They did that stuff. They're getting orders all year long from people they met at Cancast. And that's what we want to see. When we started this, it was, let's bring the whole industry together. No BS, no drama. Let's have fun under one roof for one day. And it's actually for the first time in 4 years, I'm seeing it come true. I feel like we've done it. And I'm really excited for this Sunday.
I think sorry, go ahead, Scottie.
The one thing I truly love, and as I said, Jeff Penner from Jeff's Jigs is someone that I've watched grow, and I sit back and wait to see where he's going to end up. But
I know exactly where Jeff's going to end up. Jeff's going to be like the CEO of a marketing firm.
and you will be the springboard to that. And I think that's what it needs to be mentioned is you give these new up-and-comers the opportunity to strut their stuff on that platform. And I know Jeff is wholly, he's been talking about it the whole year. This is the highlight of his year. So a shout out to you for allowing guys and gals like him to get that next level, to get that next step. So big shout out to you for that.
Yeah, Jeff does a fantastic job. He's working late nights and going to school, and he's tying jigs, and he makes a fantastic product. Like, I mean, fantastic. And, you know, I fish this stuff. Sean and Mark have fished this stuff, and like, we all love it. It has amazing hair jigs. You know, we do some smallmouth on the St. Lawrence and stuff. But that was kind of what we wanted to be. I always said, I want Cancast to be everybody's Super Bowl of fishing, right?
Yep.
And it's just one day. And some people are like, hey, why aren't we doing 2? Why aren't we doing 3 days? I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to kill our vibe. Like that one day of just high energy party, it's really something to be said about that. You know what I mean? I'll never say never the 2 days. I don't know what the future holds for this right now. I don't know. We're getting a lot of interest in it and where it's going to go and stuff like that. But I do really like our format, and it keeps it affordable for the vendors, and that's what it's about for us too.
Amen.
So,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Moose.
So I was going to say, and again, I'm not stirring the pot. I'm not letting things out of the bag.
No.
But next year, you had a concern because you brought this up to me and said, Moose, I've already spoken to some people, and I've already spoken to the building, and I've already seen the schedules. How do you think next year is going to pan out? Are there any concerns? Have you thought about that? Or is that like, hey, let's not even think about that until next year?
No, I'm thinking about next year right now already, because we're trying to work with the venues. Next year's a little weird. We're always going to try to go that last weekend of March, first weekend of April, wherever the weekend kind of falls to Easter. We're going to crown that as that's Cancast weekend. And out of respect for all the other shows, we hope no one runs the same weekend. We would never try to take someone's date either. You know, like Spring Fishing Boat Show has always been February long weekend. Sportsman Show is always March break. And we're going to try to play well. Next year, the shows, because the way Easter goes, they're going to kind of pile up on each other, Moose. We're going to have Quinty Sportsman Show, Toronto Sportsman Show, and Cancast the week after. But you know what? I'm not worried about it. I think we've proven the product. I think that we also have a different demographic than both of those shows. I think we got a whole bunch of different people coming. Some people are going to hit them all. Some people aren't. Some people are going to hit one. That's fine. But
so the reason why I bring that up is
we just got to go ahead.
So the reason why I bring that up is I think next year would be, in my personal opinion, would be a good year to do a 2-day show.
So next year is our 5-year anniversary. That's the 5th year of Cancast. Can you believe that? That's crazy, eh? So it's so this will be year 4 that we've been in Peterborough. Next year will be year 5. So yeah, I mean, we're throwing ideas around. I'll leave it at that.
Nah,
that's green. That's gonna get totally. That's going to get totally recorded. It's going to get blasted out there. But look, there is nothing confirmed.
The only reason why I say that is if it's back to back to back to back, and a lot of these vendors, like let's face it, a lot of them, you know, they make their money in the off season and then do their thing in the summertime. And if we can provide them, if you can provide them with a platform where they can benefit from a 2-day show at the end of the season, they can they've now got time to make product and plan for 1, 2, 3 shows in a row, because it is a lot of work, but you also have to make sure you got enough product.
Yeah. And that is one of our biggest concerns about being the last one, Moose, is that we've had vendors already this week say, hey, I sold everything at other shows. I can't come now. And one side of me is like, well, you made a commitment to us. We've done our end. You know, you should always hold some product back. Hey, this is my Cancast allotment. And, you know, and that's where, you know, some bait makers that we can't get them to come to our show because, you know, they only can make enough, say, maybe for the Muskie Odyssey, because there's so much labor that goes into those baits. And I don't take that personally. Right. I understand if a guy can only make so many baits and he can sell them at one show, all the power to him. Good job. That's amazing. But I would love to get to the point where, you know, we could talk to some of these guys, especially some of the Muskie guys, for example, and say, hey, can you make some baits just for Cancast? Can we get you there? Because we do have a different demographic that might not hit the Odyssey, right? And kind of explore it. So I get both sides of that argument. I have huge respect for our bait makers. I know there's a lot of people hustling the last couple of weeks after Sportsman Show and Spring Fishing Show, just getting stuff made for our show, right? And that's all I ask is, you know, they hold their end of the deal. And our vendors are bringing the good stuff this year. Someone came up to us at the last show and they didn't know who I was. And they said, hey, have you heard of Cancast? And I said, yeah, I've heard of Cancast. Seriously, he had no idea who I was. Are you going? I said, yes, I'm going. He goes, how much money should I bring? And like Warren is laughing over in the booth. And I'm like, I don't know, a lot. And he's like, $500? I'm like, maybe a bit more. He's like, $2,000? I'm like, perfect. And that's what I mean. Like, he's never been to Cancast, but he's hearing about Cancast. And what we're getting this year is all sorts of new people. So I'm getting a lot of messages on Instagram about it. And I always ask, where are you coming from? Oh, I'm coming from Windsor. You know, where are you coming from? I'm coming from Ottawa this year. like stuff like that. So I think we're getting a wider spread of a demographic now. So I hope the weather holds up, that guys can get there safely, and we're going to have a great show, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I keep poking and prodding. I mean,
I know you guys have talked about it.
Yeah. I am, because I think it would be a fantastic 2-day show. It has a lot to offer. I know it's a lot of work. I know you got a lot on your plate, but you have one hell of a team backing you as well. And I think 2 days would be.
It's not so much the workload. It's like, hey, if we got it set up, there's nothing. It's about, can I keep it affordable for the vendors? You know, rent would double for me, insurance would double for me, staffing costs would double for me. Could I get would I get some of that back in admission? 100%. Would I get all of it back? Not sure. Is it a risk I'm going to have to take? For sure. But I don't want to go to the vendors and double the booths. I want to be like, hey guys, it might be $100 more. I think they could get on board with that. Right. You know, but we don't know what those costs look like yet. And our biggest thing is we have to work around the OHL Peterborough Pete's hockey schedule. And trust me, it doesn't matter what kind of economic impact you have. When those Petes own that arena and playoff hockey is starting, they don't care. That's the date. And that has been we had to move the date already earlier this year. We were supposed to be a couple weeks from now, and because the playoffs, and the Petes didn't even make the playoffs, and here we are. So it's fun time. So I'm never going to say never, Moose. I'm going to make Scottie switch the subject because you're going to make me say something I don't want to say.
You know what's cool, though? You've got a big announcement to make this year. We were talking about it briefly. There is going to be an award. We won't mention the name of the award or who's going to be presented with the award, but there is going to be an award. And I thought this was a very cool idea. Coming from what Scottie was just ranting and raving about earlier on in the show, do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so actually this young person does know he's winning it, but he doesn't know all the details of it. So we'll leave it at that. But yeah, we're going to give away an award each year to a young bait maker. And this gentleman, we've talked about him. You can all probably put 2 and 2 together, but I'm going to save the big hoorah for the show of what we're going to call this award and all that stuff, Moose. But we're going to give away a free booth to Cancast every year to a young, inspiring bait maker. That's the plan. So our whole point to be is we want to find someone that, you know, and we're not sure on the definition of, I don't want to say young, and young could be, it just could be an inspiring bait maker. I don't want to like put an age on it maybe, but I love seeing young kids, like guys like Jeff Jiggs and all that stuff get into doing this and making a business out of it. And if Cancast can give back to that industry and help, hey, here's a free booth this year. Like that's what we want to do. Right. And then the hopes is that every year that the person we gave the free booth with helps us choose the next person next year and pass that award on. And that's going to be the plan. So
I do have an idea because, you know, it's fun. And I want to thank you, Kyle, for reaching out to Brad and I about hosting a certain segment of the Made in Canada at your show. But I also have, you know, the light just went on and I'm thinking for some folks that perhaps may not be able to get to your show or maybe would be that much more inspired to be a part of your show, I'd love to be able to do something in conjunction with you from the Made in Canada standpoint, as a springboard, if you will.
For sure. No, we'd love to do anything with you, Scottie. We got a lot of Made in Canada vendors like at our show as well, a lot of Canadian companies and stuff. And, you know, that's kind of part of the name, Cancast, Canada's fishing show, right? That's kind of where it all came from. And I had that name picked out before we even opened the doors to the first Peterborough Fishing Show. I was going to rebrand it next year already. So that name and then all of a sudden that one became a success. And I thought it was just going to be a little show. And we had a ridiculous lineup where we couldn't even get them all in the building. That was that was like the worst problem you could ever have. I took so much hate for that for a full year. It was wild. It was wild, but it was good. But to see where it's came from there to Bowmanville to Peterborough to what it is now, it's there's so many variables, guys. Like 2 days, you know, do we need to switch venues? I loved being in Peterborough. I don't want to go to Toronto. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. We totally respect territories. That's a huge thing for us. And if it's got to stay in Peterborough and we can only be as big as we can be, that's cool too. Nothing wrong with that, right? So we want to just keep it the way it is. It needs to be fun. And I just want to let people know, like, I truly believe we're going to deliver this weekend. I truly believe it's going to be the best show. It's the biggest tackle swap side, the most vendors. And I don't care what the weather's doing, guys. Please come. I will have that lineup in 2 minutes. I promise you. We have a plan. So.
Yeah. Big, giant opening. Speaking of tackle swap, so a very good friend of mine who has a lot of incredible product. His kids are going to be there. And I remember walking into his garage a couple of weeks ago and thinking, what is all this for? And he says, I'm taking it to Cancast. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's probably easily over $40,000 worth of fishing product. And like, we're talking high-end product.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want the table to get bombarded. I want to go there first myself. But the tackle swap side of things, in my opinion, and we've said this, we've gone back and forth. Where do you start? Do you go left or do you go right? After 4 years now, I'm going to go directly to the tackle swap because I always miss out on the goodies at the tackle swap because they're just as good as the goodies from the corporate booths or the tackle retailers.
But so here's the thing. Someone said to me the other day, goes, tackle swap guys make the most money and they pay the least, right? And it's fair. And that's fine. That's what the show is founded on. I love it. So, because they do truly, like, there's guys at this tackle swap that only do Cancast and they just save up for the year, right? They go to other swaps and buy and trade and do whatever, but Cancast is a big day for them. But I'm throwing a wrench into your plans, Moose. The tackle swap has moved this year. It's not in the Morrow building anymore. It's over on by side the ice. So when you're going to walk into the ice pad, guys, you're going to be able to go left upstairs. The whole mezzanine is a tackle swap. You're going to go down the stairs, that whole hallway, that whole lobby is a tackle swap, and that other whole lobby all the way around. So you could technically, though, go across the ice and go in the other side and get all those guys first. Or you could go up the stairs. Which way are you going to go? So like, it's all a gamble now. So like when you guys come to Cancast, there's going to be so many more sections of show that you've never seen before. And that's what I mean. Like, I was saying, if you've been to Cancast before, this is different this year. Expect something different. That's what's cool about it.
Wow.
So, and the outside area is really cool too.
We'll give Kyle a break, Moose, and we'll talk about OFC Nation. I know we're going to have a booth there, and you're going to be doing some of your printing, and I got to get a couple hats. I'm bringing money just for hats for you, but I'm running out of OFC Nation hats. But what have we got in store at the OFC Nation booth?
So OFC Nation booth is just going to be, we're keeping it simple. We're bringing hats and hats only. So hats and patches. Pick a hat, you pick a patch, we'll press it for you on the spot. The nice thing this year, we have the one and only Miss Blue Collar will be joining us in the booth. She's got some blue collar goodies to still get rid of and sell. So Adriana from Blue Collar Angling will be there. We've got Gallows Memorial patches. We've got ROFC Nation patches. We've got some custom bass patches. And I talked to Kyle a couple times about, maybe selling some Cancast patches if he's up for it. But yeah, you pick a hat, you pick a patch, we'll press it for you on the spot. We'll keep it light and simple. I know Adriana's got some hoodies and t-shirts and baits. And that's about it. And then we have our booth giveaway. How did it go, by the way, the booth giveaway? Did you bring the keys home from Ottawa? Or
the keys are all set to go. We have the rod to give away as well. We also will be filling out ballots, and I want to thank the good folks up at Camp McIntosh for making a prize available for us for Cancast. 2-night stay at Camp McIntosh. All you got to do is fill out a ballot, and we will be announcing the winner on CFN Live.
Primo. So yeah, that's OFC Nation. We try to keep it simple. Hats, giveaways, good times and smiles. Weeks ago, I put it out there and said, if you guys are coming to Cancast, if you're a vendor or if you're just coming to shop, put out a video. I want to know what you're shopping for. I want to beat you to it.
I want to know.
If you're a vendor, let us know what your booth special is. We want to know what the specials are. If you have 50% off, if you have a blowout bin, if you have a giveaway. I know the guys from Eating Wild, they're going to be doing some knife giveaways, and they're going to do some spices and some sampling of food. Speaking of spices, bro, there is a chimichurri aioli that this guy is going to have. Oh my God. Let me tell you, it's an unbelievable. So between the spices and the knives and the booth giveaways, and I know there's going to be a bunch of stuff coming down the pipeline from every single tackle manufacturer is got something special. There's still time. Post what your booth special is, please.
Awesome.
Yeah, like the one thing is the vendors that are quiet, they don't do as well. I'm telling you right now, social media is a great thing. post what you are bringing, please. I've had to beg some of these guys this year. Moose knows about it, and the other guys have been great. You know what? I am ripping on you, vendors. I'm ripping on you. I want you posting that you're coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's do it. It's a partnership, and let's do the deal. And that's what
we
I need out of
we put in the time to make these templates, and these templates are blank, and we send them out to you. All you got to do is plop your information in the middle of that template, hit post, and then tag Cancast. We want to know what the specials are. We want everybody to know what the specials are. Before those doors open up, I want to know exactly what my game plan is based on, well, I don't think we've uploaded the floor plan yet, but based on what I know, I want to know I'm going here, I'm grabbing that, I'm going there, I'm grabbing that. Is there oil specials again this year?
So unfortunately, Louis at Boatland, he's not able to make it, but he does have it on sale in the store if you guys want to check it out there. So I don't, like no disrespect to Louis. Sorry, that's the wrong word. I didn't know if this is public or not. Louis had a stroke back in September. So so he's moving a little slower than we'd like, and he would have loved to be there, but it's a lot of work to load it up. And I know he's got a lot going at dealer, and we offered to help, but it was just easier for Louis. So I said, no problem. Oil deal it is at Boatland Canada on the 115. By all means, please stop in there and support him for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Steve's also saying, Moose, that he'll have a bucket of goodies for the kiddos at the booth as well. So
absolutely. Dude, Steve always comes with a handful of goodies for the kids.
So Scottie, I sent you a picture. It's crazy. I just found that picture today going through all the old archives of you with giving the kids stuff.
Yeah.
So I was looking for a picture of like, kids clean up at this show, right?
Yes.
Kids clean up. I have never seen a show where kids walk out with so much stuff. It is insane. And they go nuts. Like the parents go nuts. Everybody goes nuts. Kids clean up. And I have a ton of stuff for kids. I mean, a ton of stuff for kids from sponsors, personal stuff. I know vendors are doing stuff just for kids. I promise you, if you bring a kid there, they're walking out with a lot of stuff. I promise you.
Yeah.
And if you bring a kid there and he doesn't have something free, you find me. I'll make sure he does.
Yeah.
You got my word.
Kyle, have you talked about some of the seminars and who's going to be speaking yet?
Yeah, so we touched quickly on the Muskie panel. It's at 2 p.m., guys. The reason why that one's a little bit later is because we're giving those guys time to sell because they're vendors in the show. So we want them to get the rush, and then the Muskie guys are going to go on at 2. But we got some really cool ones. Nick Kuzvis is coming back again because he packs the room every time. He's going to do electronics, guys, how to make the most out of your electronics. So he's going to be there for Radio World. Radio World's coming to Cancast for the first time ever with huge specials on electronics, Baba, scales, you name it, all sorts of special guys. Check out the Radio World trailer. They're going to be outside in a trailer. Really cool. From there, this next one's cool. We're going to have the legend himself, Bob Azumi, and Bassmaster Elite Angler of the Year, Chris Johnson, doing a seminar together. How wild is that going to be? Isn't that amazing? This was their idea. Like, I had nothing to do with it. They, Bob called me like, hey, I'm going to do a seminar with Chris because I think he's shy. Perfect. You know what I mean? So that one's at noon. I think that one's going to be really good because you just don't know which direction those two are going to go, right? And they can teach you a thing or two about fishing. And then at 1 p.m., we actually have our first ever Cancast ladies panel. And this one's really cool one. And the angle of this is one, all the women on this panel are complete hammers. They're hammers, right? You got like Megan Patterson, Erin Wilson, Rose Van Roy, Lisa Davies, Diana Danger, Pam Stewart. Hammers, hammers, hammers. So, they're there from many angles. One, they're going to tell you how to fish. And trust me, boys, they can outfish most of you. So go there and learn something. If you're a young lady and you want to know what it's like to get into fishing, how did you do it? A lot of these girls on this panel, they didn't have a dad or a brother or boyfriend that got them into fishing. They went and they met people through organizations like CFN or OWA with Yvonne or stuff like that. And they got into fishing. Like, it's really cool. So they're going to talk about that. They're going to talk about tips and tricks. They're going to talk about how to get your husband into fishing if he doesn't, because a couple of them have been in that situation. Funny stuff like that. But I don't want you guys to look at it as, hey, it's just focused on women, that panel. It's not. They're absolute hammers. And we're really excited to have that one as well.
Very skilled, educated.
Seminars are all free. It's part of the show. So you buy your ticket to get in. If you buy it before the show, you're entered into all these draws. We're giving away a ton of free stuff this week still. Your odds of winning are amazing. I know something about a Garmin Live Scope is going to go up later this week. Have you guys got your tickets yet? So
I bought extra tickets.
You get into the show, you get the seminars, everything. First 200 people in line are going to get a free pack of baits from Bait Fuel and NetBait. We got 1,000 free bags coming from FXR. There's so much stuff, guys. Like I can't even keep going. There's lanyards from companies. There's everything. We're just gonna work the crowd, have some fun, and that's what it's all about. So
awesome. Holy
smoke. Now, can you imagine? Like, that's just one show one day. Times 2 next year. It's going to be insane.
Yeah. What if everybody sells everything on day 1?
Then hey, listen, day 2 is just going to be a good time.
Yeah, no doubt. So, anyways, it's I'm excited. If you need clothing, come to this show. There's a Huck factory sample clearance.
Whoa.
Like, there's a Under Armour sample clearance. Like, both companies have got huge spaces. There's FXR, first fishing show for them in Canada, like freshwater fishing show for FXR. How cool is that? Right? That's going to be awesome. That's a new vendor coming to the show. All the major boat brands are going to be there. Bass boats, my old WX Skeeter. Remember that sweet 1910 walleye boat I had, boys? It's going to be there for sale. Somebody wants a Skeeter, a couple years old demo. Lots of good stuff coming, guys. Outside area.
You have ATVs there this year as well, right?
There's going to be some ATVs, and the only reason we let them in is because I've got enough arguments that fishermen need ATVs to get to back lakes and to ice fish. And I said no, but I had enough arguments that I was allowed to bring ATVs in this year because I stick to my rules. There's no fillers. You should see some of the companies that approach us for booths. It's awesome. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I know somebody's going to do this slipper thing. And the slipper thing comes from I'm going to be fully transparent where it came from. You remember when the Sportsman Show was kind of going a little downhill before Mike took it over, and Mike's done a fantastic job with it. Amazing. And we went, and there was like an aisle of slippers as far as the world could see, and hairdressing supplies. And it was like only 2 halls. And that's where that slipper joke came from. And I know somebody's going to do it. So I'm going to call it out early because I did that video. This is what I would do. I would fill my booth with slippers just to prove Kyle wrong. All right. I'd be like, screw this Kyle guy. I would have a whole setup of slippers and my tackle behind me. And if you do that, I will throw you out of the show.
Listen, though, there's something to be said about flip-flops and water shoes. Like there's that guy that does the boat show every year.
Fair enough,
He's
man.
phenomenal. Dude, every year I make sure I get my water shoe, my boat shoes, my water shoes, my flip-flops from that guy.
Yeah, and I'm just tripping. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I sell flip-flops at FXR for a living and deck boots, and there'll be lots of that there. So I'm just playing, but it's that's all in good fun. I don't want to take that line too seriously. It's all in good fun, right?
It is all in good fun. Absolutely.
What it's all freaking about is good fun.
Yeah.
So for folks who are looking for tickets, head on over to the website that's there. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to Kyle and Moose before the show so that we can answer them and point you in the right direction. But of course, the social, is that happening again on Saturday night?
100%. We got Moose. He was there today, Scout, and he's going to do some karaoke.
Baby.
Moose is in high demand. It's like, is Moose coming with the karaoke? Like, he's the man, right? So,
it didn't happen last year, and word on the street is everybody wants it this year. So Kyle said, Moose, do you want to do karaoke again? And I said, absolutely.
Brought to you courtesy of B2R printing, or however you say. I mess it up every time.
Every time. BR2 printing.
BR2
I was down at Shoeless Joe's today, just kind of getting a sense of the lay of the land, and Long and McQuaid is all good to go and ordered. So we're going to play some tunes. I might have a special guest DJ appearance. I'm just waiting on a call back. He is a gentleman from the industry. He's going to play some tunes for us. And I'm going to host karaoke, and we're going to have some fun. And like Kyle said before, this is what it's all about. It's bringing everyone into one room and having a good time. And man, you want to see characters? You get a couple of wobbly pops into some of these guys, and their true colors come out. They are beauties, male or female. Listen, don't discredit the girls either. They'll get down with the best of them. They'll grab the microphone, and Tupac and Eminem and all kinds of dude. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time, and that social is getting a bit of a reputation. So I leave early. I'm at it. Last year I was out by 11. I got to run a show like 5 a.m. Right? I don't sleep anyways the night before. I literally don't. So I don't know why. I'll probably stay a little later this year because what's the point? If anybody sees me at the show and you bring me a Red Bull, you are going to be my hero. Like, you're going to be my hero.
Monster. So, we're going to bring you a monster. I heard Cooper's coming this year, I hear.
Actually, I just got the call from Bob Mahoney today, and Shimano's flying Cooper back up because he was going to stay in Texas or in the States for the next event. So Bob called me. They're flying Cooper up. He's going to be hanging out in that Shimano booth, which is awesome. So big thanks to Shimano for making that happen. I know the Canadian fans love it. We're going to have all the elite guys there. We're going to have both the Johnson brothers. They'll be hanging around the Apex battery booth. And then I was one of their new sponsors. And then we're going to have Evan Klung there as well. He'll be hanging out around the Daiwa and the GLF stuff. So really excited about that. Congrats to the Corey. Again, I think he got 5th there in the Bassmaster Classic. Like, don't know why it's been so quiet this year about people in the Bassmaster Classic. Like, man, if there's a Canadian in the top 10, maybe we've just learned to expect it now. Are we that spoiled? Right? Is that the problem? That why we're not all excited? Is that it, Moose?
What else was happening? There was something else going on this weekend that sort of took people away. What was it?
Well, we talked about it at the beginning, and as I said, there was a lot of variables that played into it. The weather was by far probably the biggest hindrance, and some folks thought maybe a day was going to be taken away from the Classic. Practice, if anybody watched the videos leading up to it, was horrendous for some of the boaters. But we touched on some of the things, Moose. The venue itself, where they did the weigh-in, we're not 100% sure how far away that was from the expo. The expo hit it out of the park. It was busting at the seams. But then when we went over to the weigh-in, and folks were pointing out all the empty seats. So, of course, Jim and I spent the first half hour talking about exactly that. Well, what could it be? Dude, the coverage was second to none. Like, my Lord. And I have to admit, this was the first Classic I've watched start to finish. And the coverage that they provided me as a viewer, why would I go to Texas?
100%, right? People always say to me, like, you go in the Classic, and I want to go. A lot of my great brands that we represent are there. Now, there's no business for me to be done there, but show the whole weekend before, like for Cancast, and I'm watching it on my big screen, like it's amazing. The coverage is so good now. It's so good. It's no different than, like, why would you go to a hockey game and sit in the nosebleeds? Well, maybe you get the energy of the crowd and this and that. When you get like a wicked coverage now, the camera angles, it's a different world.
And then
sorry, go ahead.
The other thing, Bill mentioned that there was a college tourney that was going on at the same time. Not to mention, and of course we talk about this, and Andy's always had this issue at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show when it comes to parking. I don't think Bassmaster had any dealings with the parking fees that were associated at the Dickies Arena, but you were paying $25, $30, $35 to park your vehicle at the arena. So everything's
I didn't
free.
know that.
Yeah, but the parking wasn't.
So parking's a good shout out there too, Scotty, like you're saying about Andy. So like Andy would technically have to rent that International Center parking lot. That's a huge fee for Andy as a show promoter. And he does that. Even at Cancast, we have to rent that parking lot on top of the building. So just to rent that parking lot, guys, is $2,500 for the day. Like, those are expenses people don't see. We do that. We don't advertise. We just say, hey, it's parking, right? So I'm going to give you guys a little tidbit, though, if you're coming to the show. First off, if you don't like crowds, it's busy for the first few hours. The afternoon, it really does thin out. That's just the truth of it, right? There is a brand new arena built right now beside the Memorial Center. It has a huge, beautiful paved parking lot, and it's open all day, and it's a short 100-yard walk. And a lot of people don't know it's there. And it's brand new, and it's open. So go ahead and park over there.
That's building 2 that we're going to talk about for next year, but we won't get into that now.
Yeah,
we won't get into that now.
We're all over that.
But here, let me explain something to you. Okay, so day one, the arena looked empty for a couple of different reasons. Every arena does things differently. So, like I've gone to 8 of these, 8 in a row. This is the first year I've missed it in 8 years. Day one is always one of those things where most people go and spend their time at the expo and then make their way over to the arena. They're not far from each other. They're within, I think, like a 5-minute drive of one another. Not far at all. 5 or 6 minute drive. I remember looking it up because we were supposed to go. The only issue with the arena this year is you had to go online and purchase your free ticket in order to get into the arena. So a lot of people didn't know that. And so I was talking to Carrie and Kelly, Cooper's parents, and a few others actually, and they were actually they denied KVD. Like Van Damme couldn't even get into the building because he didn't have a ticket. Like you had to go online and order your ticket to get into, and I think it had something to do with like the security and the disclaimer and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it'd be
But
an insurance thing for sure, right?
Yeah,
Everyone has to be accounted for. So
yeah. So I think that's why you saw on day one, empty seats and this, that, and the other thing. But you saw day 2 and day 3, full house.
Yeah. No, it's the cup. Like you hit the nail on the head though, Scottie. Like, what a time to be a fan of Bassmaster right now. Amazing.
Oh my Lord, man. Again, not to flog a dead horse, but we talk about this all the time, getting the next generation of anglers, new blood. Every single conservation group, hunting and club, they're worried about what's going to happen 5 years from now because everybody's just getting too old to do anything. We had that hatchery up in I want to say it was Saugeen. I might have it wrong, but the roof collapsed, and because their membership, they're so old they can't get up on that roof to shovel the snow. So we have it before us, and instead of dumping on it like some do, we should be celebrating. And anyway, that was my rant about an hour ago.
No doubt. Good.
Right on, lads. Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for joining me tonight. And of course, Kyle, I know you've got a lot going on and a lot to do. I know, Moose, you're busy always. I don't think you ever stop. So I appreciate the time that you were able to take to do this tonight. We look forward to seeing both of you on Saturday and Sunday. And of course, if you need anything more, reach out to Kyle, reach out to Moose, or go to www.cancast.ca and find out all you need to know there.
Guys, even if you can't come, buy yourself a ticket. You don't have to be there to claim the prize. I'll get it to you. The prizes are ridiculous coming up. So it's good. Thank you, Scottie. Thank you for everything you guys do for us at Cancast, and we're looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Right on, boys. Love it.
Cheers.
Love it. All right. That is our show. Thanks so much for all of you for joining us. And I will say this because it's been so long, and I thank everybody for sticking around as long as you did. I will send you off quickly, and we'll do it right now. Dave, you did a fantastic job emceeing the Bassmaster Classic this weekend. So if you got a little bit of energy, send us off. Love you all. Take care. We'll see you at Cancast on Sunday. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights. The party's over. They say that all good things must end.